going to begin because there are quite a few people here. So, do you have a question?
Oh my goodness, I'm the first one. I usually take all the time to think of something.
Okay.
Pass you.
Go ahead. Yeah, I'll do it.
I listened to the...
Can you speak up?
I'll repeat. To the DVDs talked about...
the workshop DVDs?
Yes,
okay.
Yes, about parasites aiding in cleaning.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder, is that like a more intense cleaning than just using the regular
Yeah,
diet?
with less symptoms. I don't know, some of you may have read that I incited a tapeworm back in about 2004, right before I went to Vietnam. And I shot out 2 50-foot sections. Now, tapeworm is not one worm. Each worm is a noodle, and then they attach to each other to make the long worm. So they eat separately. So it's not one worm going, all the food going down through the whole worm. It's each little noodle section of worm digests on its own, eats its own. So I had constipation terribly as a child. After probably the same time I got autism, after that tetanus shot at 18 months old, I would move every 5 days, sometimes 7 days. So when I'd move, it would be like granite. It would tear my rectum. I bled every time I had a bowel movement. And sometimes it would drip blood from the tears of my rectum. So by the time I was 21 years old, I had an inch to an inch and a half fibroid as a rectum. So it was all scar tissue. And no, even though I got on this diet, everything became soft. I'd have bowel movements most often every day. And everything was pretty good. I would still tear because it was scar tissue. And I would still bleed. So I thought about the African children who get the tapeworm. They're only ones that are fed aid, not AIDS, but aid food, which is cereals and powdered milk. And those are the worst foods you can feed anybody, according to Pottinger's work with cats. Found that they got 2,300 diseases from eating powdered milk and those toxic cereals. And the cereals are fried in hydrogenated vegetable oils, which is plastic fat. When you hydrogenate an oil, you know, they told you the safflower oil is good, stop eating butter. It was an absolute lie. Because when you hydrogenate, that's a aeration process with a heat process, and it causes the oil to turn into a liquid plastic. If you continue the hydrogenation for hours, you're going to get solidified plastic. That's how plastic is made. You take petroleum oil, usually, you do it with that, but you can do it with any oil. So when you hydrogenate vegetable oil, trans fatty acids mean plastic oil. They say plastic fat, but oil is not fat. Only our bodies make oils into fats, into cholesterol. Those are true fats. Oils are not fats. So when you have those plastic oils in the body, they jam the body. Your body cannot digest them, cannot process them at all. So I knew that all that stuff was stored in my body, my rectum and everything. So I thought about the children who have the tapeworm, and it keeps their bowels relatively clean because that tapeworm eats high sugar products. So it's actually helping those children. When you give those children antibiotics, most of them die. So they were really killing those children. Oh, let's give to the medical profession to help these children with tapeworms. All they need to do is stop feeding them that garbage food, that donated food, and everybody who donated to the company, those companies are run by the food industry, because they want to sell their unsaleable food somewhere. They don't want to sell it for a cost or a loss or anything like that. So they get these people who, they'll drum them up, go to some religious organization and say, we want to help you help people. We want to help you help children. Let's go help you feed those children. We'll help you provide an organization. You get donations, and we'll provide you cheap food to feed these people. We'll give you deals. And it's all a scam.
That's what happened in Mexico when I was with the doctor in southern Mexico. Babies were dying from drinking powdered milk.
Yeah.
Dying, dehydrated.
Yeah.
You have to put them in water.
Yeah. So that was the situation. So I decided I wanted a tapeworm. So I knew that the way I had to do it was I had to ferment some milk with some kind of root. So I chose the maca root from South America. So I went to David Wolf's website. I thought if I want to get a parasite, that's where I should go. So I got his maca root, fermented it in milk for about 3 weeks. So when I popped the top off, the alcohol was so bad when I inhaled it gave me a headache. That's how bad it was. I drank, instead of doing it intelligently, I did it impulsively, and I drank 3 cups of it, of the quart, instead of just taking a half a cup at a time. So I had hives that would not quit. I mean, huge hives. And I was getting on a plane for Vietnam the next day. So I had these cold slices of cucumber and tomato. I'd be going into the toilet and rubbing them, strip mine down and rub them over, and every hour going into the toilet. That's
And that was a detox that was starting too fast.
Yes.
Especially which created
detox, right.
That's what hives is?
Hives are detox of contamination to the skin, where the body has to neutralize the toxin well enough before it put it into the skin. So I'm itching and going nuts with all of this. And then 2 days later, I was in Hanoi, and all of a sudden, I got this craving for onion. So I went in and ate half an onion. I mean, just like it was an apple. It was incredibly delicious. Then after the half of it, I just couldn't eat anymore. So within about 10 hours, I ran to the toilet, and just all that onion came out, and a tapeworm came out. So I grabbed it out of the toilet, and I put it there and spread it over the wooden floor in the hotel room, and measured it, and it was about 47 feet. They shrink very fast. If you get one of those little sections, noodle sections, it will shrink and look like a rice in 24 hours. So they shrink very rapidly. So it was about 47 feet, so I figured it was 50 feet by the before it shrank enough, before it shrank at all. So I had 50 feet of it. Then I thought, oh no, I didn't want to get rid of them. My bowel movements were better. Everything was better when I had the tapeworm for those few days. And I thought, I'll kill them. So then about 2 weeks later, my bowel movements were still pretty good. I still had a little tearing. And then all of a sudden, a few of the noodles were floating around in the toilet again, so I knew that he was still alive, that the colony was still alive. It isn't one worm, it's many worms. So it was after about 3 more weeks, I shot out another 50 feet, never saw him again. But at that time, I never bled again. Never bled since then. I was 56 years old at the time. Never bled once, even if I had big bowel movements, because the tissue got supple to where it would stretch without tearing. So I got rid of a lot of scar tissue. So it's still, though, it wasn't soft like baby tissue. So I decided to incite another tapeworm 6 years later. So 3 weeks ago, I fermented some maca root again. This time, hello. This time, I fermented it in a little bit of milk and some whey, and let it ferment for about 2 weeks this time. And I only drank a cup, and within a week I had little noodles again. And that was about, about 10 days ago, no, about 12 days ago. And while I was in Chicago about 5 days ago, I had a bowel movement where partially digested tapeworms came out. So I started actually digesting and eating the tapeworm. So,
Which is a good sign or a bad sign?
no, that was a good sign.
Good sign.
You know, that means my body is actually using them as food. So recycling them in my own body. How much, sweetie?
It's in the back there, so it's
I
pretty
know.
cool.
So, all of a sudden, in the last few days, my rectum tissue is just like a baby's, soft and supple. And to test it, I ate a whole 2 pounds of cheese in one day to see, you know, to get a really big bowel movement. And I mean, it was stopped at the toilet. Literally stopped at the hotel toilet. But no tearing, no bleeding, no pain. You know, when I used to have bowel movement, I get headaches from having a bowel movement because it was tear so badly because so much scar tissue there. Now it's just wonderful. You know, I tried to get the well.
How did you do it?
Your tapeworm is mainly in roots.
Oh, it came from the maca.
Yeah, it came from the maca root.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
But how does the tapeworm
You suggest
do
that we
scarring?
do that?
It eats
it does.
toxic dead cells. It's like I say. You asked me about parasites.
Okay.
That's considered a parasite. It eats off the dead tissue in my intestines, not the good.
So anywhere in your body it'll eat scarring? And...
No, the tapeworm is strictly for the intestines.
Oh, okay.
Now the trichinosis, the whipworm, is a digestive parasite. It's like your intestinal bacteria. It's not a parasite that lives off of your food. It eats your food so you can have your nutrients. Like in our digestive bacteria, which is supposed to be 90% or more of digestion, your bacteria eats the food you've eaten, their feces, their urine, their sweat is our food. That's the way it is. So we eat piss, poop, and sweat of bacteria. That's how it works. So get rid of squeamishness. Leave your mind forever, because that's what we eat from the bacteria. Parasites just eat twice as much as bacteria in 24 hours. That means that you can get nutrients faster. That's like the trichworm, the trichinosis. Tapeworm lives off toxic and very weak cells that are built off of sugars, toxic sugars. Even good sugars, you can cause cells to be very weak. That's why I say limit your fruit intake to one meal a day, and no more than a certain amount. And don't sit there and pig out on watermelon or anything like that, because then you will create weak tissue. So the tapeworm, I wanted to eat the dead cells of my body that were still scar tissue, that were manufactured from all the years that I ate cereals. And let me tell you, when I got away from home, I had 3 meals a day with Rice Krispies and sugar with my Rice Krispies and skim milk, because that's what I was taught to do. And terrible diet. Well, no wonder I ended up with an ulcer and was an alcoholic and a smoker too. So no wonder I got so sick so young. So anyway, I was using the tapeworm to clean the intestines. I wanted it to get into the small intestines, so I was eating a little bit more of that fermented stuff to try to lure it in past the ileocecal valve. And I felt it move in. It was a little painful, but I felt it move in. So now it's working on my small intestines, which it hadn't done before. So that's why I'm quite, rounded and bloated right now.
So if you have...
What I'm hoping it will do is go in and take away the scar tissue where the vagus nerves were severed to my stomach.
Yeah.
So I can reconnect those vagus nerves. That would be
What would
wonderful.
that do with the parasite? You have to find a parasite?
No, I've just been talking about it. I got a parasite, a tapeworm. Okay. So somebody
So
else.
it's possible then, I'm sorry to keep on this,
Where
but
would you get
that
it?
they would be able to eat scar tissue and dead cells elsewhere in the body other than the intestines.
Well, it has to be a parasite that lives in that tissue. A tapeworm only lives in the intestinal tract, unless you have somebody who's so sick that it breaks through. But usually it will die in another environment. And all of those pictures you see with the brain worms, it's all fiction. Somebody has taken a actual maggot and put it in a brain and made you believe that, flies can germinate in your brain, which is absolute nonsense. Brain parasites you can't even see. They're like malaria. The malaria, you've got a parasite that helps red blood cells get well. It's so finite you can never see it unless you've got a high-powered electronic microscope. You cannot see a malaria worm. It's inside a red blood cell, and is, let's say, a maggot to you is a malaria to a red blood cell. So it's so infinitesimally small, you need a very high-powered, like 2,000 time microscope to see it, or even 6,000 times to see a young one. You might see an adult at about 2,000 or 3,000. So you just have to get away from this medical terrorism. They're all about scaring you into believing your body is stupid. And take a look at it. Look at what we do to our bodies with cereals and processed sugars and all these chemicals, and we're still getting up and breathing and walking and working and functioning. Not greatly, but not the way they were hundreds of years ago, but we're still functioning. So the body is working very hard, and the body is not stupid, or else you'd be falling over dead and crippled at any time. But that's what the medical profession wants you to believe, that the body's always attacking itself, that there are things inside your body that are always attacking it. And they want you to take antibiotics. So we know now that in the last year, the results came out from a certain gastroenterologist that showed we have 350 bacterial genes to every one human gene. That means you're not even 0.01% human. You are strictly bacteria, period. So when you take an antibiotic, think how stupid that is. It is, because with a 5-day round of regime of antibiotics, you will destroy 1% of all the bacteria in the body. That's 1% function. If you're on a good diet, you may reconstitute 2% a year. So let's say you do 10 days of an antibiotic, you've destroyed your whole year's ability to advance. And that's on a good diet. Nobody's out there on a good diet. So every time they take an antibiotic, they're losing 1% of their functionality. So don't get hooked into that garbage. Just had a guy call me from Holland. He's actually South African. He's the one that set me up to do the tour in South Africa. And he got an appendicitis. And he's got an MD friend there and a gastroenterologist friend and all kinds of friends in Holland that are highly educated, and they're telling him, this is appendicitis, it'll kill you. Nobody survives a bursted appendix, So, you can die. Don't take your chance on this. This is the medical profession's terrorism. So, they scared him enough to go in and take all the tests. Sure enough, showed an abscess in the appendix swollen and abscessed. And he called me and I said, so, you can have an abscess in your tooth, you can have it in your appendix. If you're eating the right things, the stuff I told you, the tomato mixture in the book, I'll give you some other mixtures, a lime juice mixture with honey and vinegar and some coconut cream and dairy cream. Take that, which I call my penicillin reducer, fungal reducer, and it's a bacterial reducer if you're detoxing too fast. And I said, take those. So he was going through a lot of pain Friday and Saturday, and he just called me in about an hour ago from Holland and said, it's all gone. All the pain's gone. I feel great. I'm back to normal. So you can't let the medical terrorism destroy your mind, because they will. It's all about being frightened.
Or the friends that are so in love with the medical,
Yeah.
monopoly, and then they're influencing you. You have to put a block up.
Absolutely.
Believe that.
Yeah. So you get trapped into that, and you're going to be destroying your body, because nothing they do promotes health. If you look in their manuals, which are all written by pharmaceutical houses, and what's the one company? Merck's is this thick. The word cure does not exist. Word cure is not in that book. The word heal only is in with a lesion or a tear or a cut. That's the only time they will use heal. Your wound will heal. Your wound heals. They don't want you healing anywhere else. They want you sick, unhealthy, because that's how they profit. Period. Okay. So, I promote bacteria. I promote parasites. You have to look. I'm closing in on finishing my 66th year, and I was supposed to be dead 45 years ago. In December will be 45 years when I was supposed to be dead. So take a look at that.
Is that formula written down in the book or newsletter or anywhere?
In one of the newsletters, yeah. It's the Lyme formula, which I call the penicillin reducer or bacterial reducer. It's what you take instead of an antibiotic. It will slow your detox down a bit, so you're not suffering so much, but it won't stop it, and it won't kill you like antibiotics do.
What is that called again?
I call it my bacterial reducer, or my penicillin destroyer, or my fungal destroyer. I have many names for it.
Is it somewhere in one of the books?
It's in one of the newsletters. I developed that, like the sport formula I developed after 2005. So anything after 2005 you have to find in my newsletters.
Well, the sports formula has its own page. Anybody can just put sports formula in the search box.
Yeah. And so you can find that now. So I think there are 1,500 pages now altogether, something like that. So there's a lot of, it's like 3 books worth of information in the newsletters. And if you subscribe at $85, is it?
Right.
He's run. It's not my website; it's his website. He's just publishing my stuff that's beyond the books, or after the books, post books. So anytime you want that information, it's $85. You get all the newsletters back to 2006.
It's so worth it.
Oh, it's incredible! Yeah.
There's a search engine on it, so we can just look up bacteria reducer, and it'll pop up the article.
It's not perfect.
No, it's not that yet. But you get them down, and then you put that in a file, on one file, and you run a search in your computer down that file, and you come up with every place it mentions that word.
Well, the newsletters are individual PDFs, so they can be searched.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If they put them all in one file, all of the PDF files, all 30 of them,
right.
In one file, you can run a search engine on that file, and it will search for that word in every one of those PDF files.
Great.
Okay. So it makes it very quick. That's what I do. Okay, do you have a question, Louis?
Yes. Lately I find that it doesn't take much food for me to eat in order to gain weight. I gain weight more easily, particularly around the middle, and I'm wondering about that because if I want to eat more, I know at the drop of a hat I'll gain.
Uh-huh.
So where am I about that? You mentioned that I'm at the proper weight, so I pretty much stay there. I focus my eating as far as staying at the proper weight.
That's fine. It just means you're digesting your food better and utilizing it better. So you don't need to eat as much.
There you go. Okay.
Or get fat.
Well, I suppose...
you still have a lot of toxins in your body.
Okay.
Your eyes aren't completely blue yet. So
sure.
The more fat you have, the quicker they'll leave. Oh, let me give you another thing that happened. I had this one fellow. The only real problems I have with patients are patients who've been skinny a long time in their life. And I mean bird legs and bird thin all their lives. So they didn't have any fat to store poisons. They went into the cells. So all their cells are terribly contaminated. Those are my worst patients. They're always in pain, they're always suffering, they're always in fatigue. When they reach that straw in their life, that breaks the back of health, it's sometimes 10 years, 11 years before they're at a normal plane. So it's difficult. Now I had one fella that came with me 2 years ago that was in that shape. And he was calling me all the time, as those people do. I only have 4 of them right now. Well, 2 of them are now pretty well. I still have 2 of them that call me pretty regularly. And one's been on about 3 years, and one's been on 2 years. This one fellow's been on 2 years. So he came to see me in Chicago, and he was gray. He was gray. I mean gray. Not any pink in his skin, nothing. He was gray. He was dark gray around here, almost charcoal, like a raccoon.
Wow. What causes that?
That's metal poisoning.
Metal poisoning.
Yeah, metal poisoning. So, especially tin and mercury from injections and aluminum. So, and it's a good thing because they're trying to throw it out and they throw it into the skin. 90% of toxins are supposed to leave through the skin. So, in those people, they have so many toxins, it's going to go layer after layer after layer because it's deep in their tissues. There's a lot of people that I've seen where the toxins not many are in the cells, they're out in the serums and outside the cell, tattooed onto the cell wall and caked onto the cell wall. So there's not as much functionality, but there's less pain and suffering in those people. So this fellow came in the door, and I mean, it's only been 2 years, and he was pink. He was still a little gray here, but he didn't look like a raccoon anymore. And he was smiling and happy. And this guy didn't smile any time that I've seen him in the last 2 years, on the phone with him, nothing happy about him. But all of a sudden, about 4 months, he stopped calling me. And I saw him 7 months ago when I was in Chicago. And I just saw him last week. So I said, okay, you're not from this planet, right? Because in his intestinal tract, if you look at an iris, you've got the outer edge, you've got the pupil. Now around the pupil you're going to find this belt that goes around, that's the intestinal tract. His intestinal tract was completely black. You could not tell the difference between his intestinal tract and dark black spokes coming out from that in his pupil. That's how much mercury and heavy metals he had in his intestines. He was one of those skinny individuals that absorbed all those poisons and couldn't throw them off because he had no fats to throw them off. So here he walks down, photographs his eyes. I can see his entire digestive tract. 90% of the metal has gone.
Wow.
And he looks at it, and I said, yeah, what planet are you from? Because this isn't natural or normal. And, he said, no, I'm from here, and, I'm just doing better, and, I'm better, I'm feeling good. And he said, he said, I don't see the difference, but I feel the difference. I feel happy now. I feel energy, and he was big. I mean, he went from bone thin, like Jim was and a lot of other people, several other people who were here, were bone thin. Thinner than, forgot his name here. Thinner than he is.
Right.
So he was big. I mean, his waist, he probably went from and he's about 6'2". He probably went from a 31 waist to a 40 waist, maybe 42. But he was strong. He had red skin, not all gray except around the eyes. And it was just like a miracle. And I've seen that a few times, but the people weren't honest with me. I said, okay, I want you to tell me what you eat. Take me through a day. How much would you eat? He said, well, okay, I'm going to be honest. I have been eating maybe 10 times more cheese than you asked me to eat, told me to eat. I said, I gave you a minimum. I don't care if you eat a whole 10 pounds a day. I just want you to eat a minimum of, a little cube of cheese, a half a teaspoon every 15 minutes. Well, he wouldn't stop eating them. He would just keep eating and eating and eating it and going through a pound and a half a day. And I tell people that's what vacuums and absorbs the poisons out of the stomach and intestines. And in 7 months, he did that. You have to understand, when I give you something, it's a minimum, not a maximum. It's a minimum. So, pig out on the cheese if you have intestinal poisoning and you want to get rid of metal poisoning faster. Get fat for a while on cheese. Cheese will make you fat. You don't digest it. The raw cheese you won't digest. But it'll allow you to utilize all of your other foods to completely build and detox and heal, while the cheese goes through and does main detoxification. So you're able to use all those foods that I tell you to eat. And I tell everybody to eat a lot, with a lot of butter. So if you want to move fast through your poisons, do it.
So he had
lots of
1
cheese.
pound of cheese a day.
Yeah. He's 6'2".
Yeah, okay.
So
He
you
had
may
with
want to eat
butter?
a half a pound of cheese.
Did he have with butter too?
I had first thing in the morning, I had a meat with a little butter, and several times a day, like once an hour, you have a little bit of butter with so much cheese, just so you don't get too dry from it.
Yeah.
Like I said, I ate a whole pound that one day that I wanted to test my rectum with the help of the benefits of my tapeworm. And I mean, my bowel movement was bigger than my fist. And I didn't allow myself to go. I held it for 2 days. It wanted to come out, but I was going to force it to get really big so I could test it. And when it came out, it was as big as my fist. Didn't tear my rectum. Was not painful. It was very dry, though. It wasn't as dry as granite, but like it used to be when I was a kid, but that was eating cooked foods. So, anyway, cheese is a fast way to detoxify. Do you have a question?
Yeah, mine actually regards to my father, actually same as last time. But right now
speak up what?
My father right now is losing his vision. According to his doctor, he's had too many strokes in his eyes. Any you could recommend that? And on top of this, he's got a lot of anxiety and depression now going on too, because now he's going blind. He's completely lost it in one eye, and he's probably legally blind in the other eye.
What does he do to help himself dietarily? Does he do any of this?
Very little.
All he can do is put a hot water bottle at one side of his eye one night and the other one the other night. Just allow the eye to expand, because the eye and the ears get the least circulation. And when they start collecting minerals around in that tube, that little bitty tube that goes into the eye for circulation, it's shut down. Can't clean it, can't feed it. And that means blindness.
I've done that, and he's paranoid about that, because the one time he's done that, essentially he's like he lost his vision temporarily after we put on, did the hot towels on there. And,
not hot towels.
well, it was in this case I was using hot washcloths. It wasn't a water bottle.
Too hot.
Too hot? Use the water bottle instead?
A hot water bottle, wrapped in like a flannel and let it heat slowly overnight.
Okay.
Yeah, steam towels are way too hot. And they'll cause reaction all around the eye and the tissue. Anything over, let's say, 112 degrees on the skin that is not like water directly on it, that should go no more than 110. 112 is going to start creating damage. Now, you can take a hot water bottle up to 140-some degrees, and you wrap it, and when it gets through, it's only going to heat your skin up to about 110 degrees, and that's fine. But you've got to wrap, a really hot water bottle so that it'll allow the heat to dissipate slowly. It'll also keep the water bottle hot 5 to even 7.5 hours at night. If you just leave a hot water bottle exposed without being wrapped under the covers, it'll be cool in about 4.5, 5 hours.
Would bone marrow be of any use in that circumstance? Like,
he can't get it into the. He could, if his eye doesn't clean, he can put egg white and butter on his eye, and if it gets absorbed, he's not going to get rid of the waste products because it's clogged. So he has to open it first. It has to get clear. He can leave vinegar.
Okay. When you deal with people in your family, like if someone could give me the solution of how I can get that guy across the street to change his diet.
With your parents,
My family, if someone give me the solution to that, please pull me aside and tell me how you talk to people that are family. Because that's what I need more than anything. Because I can cure. I got this stuff down. I've had it down for years, but getting family members to see the light.
Yeah, my mother was dying when she was 62, and that was the only time she really tried what I said. And she did. She and my father did the raw butter, the raw cheese, the cold pressed olive oil, raw eggs. They'd mix the raw eggs and the olive oil and orange juice together, and they'd have it that way, and they did very well. And my father was starting to have trouble in his mid-60s when she was having trouble in her early 60s, and my mother was getting a surgery like every year. Something was going wrong. And they went on that diet, and they got really well, and then when they hit in their early 80s, and I mean early, and my mother was 79, my father was 82, they decided they lived long enough and they stopped doing any of the diet. Can you imagine that? They still lived to 92 and 93.
It's already been done.
Yeah.
Is that all they did or changed?
That's all they changed. They wouldn't eat the raw meat, not even raw fish. They wouldn't do that. But they ate a lot of raw foods: the raw eggs, the butter, the cheese. There was a lot that they did, and it really worked for them. They were out there. My mother at 62, she couldn't even play. They loved golf, and they were living on Jekyll Island, Georgia, and that's a golf island, and they're like one golf course has 36 holes. That's just one golf course. Another one has 18. Another one has 24. So it's a golf course island, and they love to golf. My mother was only golfing once a week. Within 6 months doing that diet, she was golfing 4 days a week.
He's done he's in his 90s right now. He's 90 right now.
Oh, then forget it.
But they don't eat. They've never eaten horribly. It's just too much sugar, too much thing.
It's probably the
too much fruit,
trans fatty acids, cereals, chips of any kind.
They don't eat that. They don't.
French fries.
No. They don't eat that. It's not that bad. My mom is traditional.
That's
German,
probably why they made
traditional German wife. She's made a lot. She actually. It's not horrible, but it's not.
It's not this.
No, it's not this.
Well,
but they're too afraid of the cholesterol. They're various. The problem is these doctors say things like, you got to watch your cholesterol, and they get people to believe them. And
you have
I get my mom afraid to eat liver, and she'd rather have a plate of pasta instead. And I'm just like,
hello.
She loves liver. She's looking at me going, oh, I'd love to have it.
Well,
but my doctor says I can't have it.
Get her the book called The Cholesterol Myth.
I have it.
And
whole other
they
thing.
won't read it? make them. I made my mother read a book once. Bible.
How'd you do it?
Someone answers this.
What I did, no, I went, sat with her. I made a trip back there, and I sat with her, and she had to read a half an hour a day until she got through it. But then she got by the 20th page, she was locked, and then I couldn't stop her from reading. But of course, then the remedy section came, and then I had to sit with her 30 minutes a day to get through that. She looked at me, she said, "Boy, you had a miserable childhood, didn't you?" She said, "I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I was just too busy, Your father didn't help with raising you at all, and I had to work as a nurse and take care of 4 crazy boys that hated each other. And we all hated each other. And it's like, she couldn't understand it because she came from... she had 12 siblings. They all got along wonderfully. They had their little fights once in a while, but they loved each other. We were having, family reunions as long as they were alive. Now almost all of them are dead. And they were all wonderful together. Okay, do you have a question?
Yeah. I'm 6 years I've had diabetes, but I'm not a type 2 diabetic.
6 years you've had what?
Diabetes.
Diabetes.
But
You're type 2?
I'm not.
Oh.
I'm a type 1.
Type 1.
And I was consistently for 12, 15 years before that, I weighed 248 pounds, rock solid. 19 3/4 neck, 56 chest, 30 waist. Big guy. I did squats with the back of cars daily for exercise. And it took the medical profession quite a long time. And it was my 7th endocrinologist that finally figured out that I was type 1. No, that I was a type 1 diabetic. Before that, they were treating me as a type 2 and not getting me controlled or well. Unfortunately, I lost a third of my body weight in that period of time. And of that, they figure it was 78 pounds. They figure about 68 of that was muscle. And I was so weak that if I got down on the floor, it would take 2 people to lift me up and get me up. I couldn't get up myself.
That's diabetes.
Yeah, and they couldn't seem to rectify that. And finally...
well, that's type 1.
Yeah. Finally, this one doctor has got me somewhat under control, but my problem, I still am trying to build my muscle back, but it's very, very difficult for me to do so. And I met
So how
John.
long have you been taking insulin?
About 2 years now.
It's nothing. I've had type 1 diabetics that have taken medication for up to 42 years.
Yeah.
Down to 3 units a day just because they want to make sure they don't have a problem. They don't really need to take it. So,
okay.
It's dietary. All you have to do is get your liver, feed your liver right, and it will work. I mean, your pancreas right, and it will work.
Okay.
So, and you've only been at it 2.5 years. You haven't had enough deterioration to have a real problem. But you can gain that tissue back very fast. Now, usually what I suggest is that you eat a pound of meat twice daily with a whole lubrication formula with each one. So you've got 2 pounds of meat, one pound at a time, and on the entire lubrication formula. It means a lot of fat with that meat.
Okay.
When I want to gain weight fast, that's what I gain weight fast. That's what I do. I'll eat a half a pound of meat. You're a bigger guy. You want to put on a lot more weight. I'll eat a half a pound with 3-4 tablespoons of butter.
Okay.
And then maybe 1 or 2s with the meat meal, and then I eat the other 1 to 2 right after I finish the meat.
Okay.
And you will gain weight fast. Everybody know Larry Lucky?
Lucky,
Yeah. He was as skinny as this man right here for his whole life. And all of a sudden he went on the diet, and I told him to eat that way. Eat the whole diet, but just make sure he had pound of meat twice daily with the whole lubrication formula. And he went to work out because he always wanted to be big his whole life, and every time he'd work out, he'd get sick and break down and couldn't work out. So he got on this diet and said, "You think I can bodybuild this?" About a year and a half after he was on the diet. I said, "Sure." So I gave him that formula, and he did it. And in 5 months, he had gained 4 inches on his biceps and 6 inches on his chest.
Still looks good.
And, yeah, and he just stopped working out. He only worked out for a year, and he hasn't worked out for 6 years, and he maintains it just by eating the diet. Okay. So it's possible. You just have to force yourself to eat, and you don't wait to get hungry. Okay.
The honey in that lube formula.
And just remember, you always don't go on blood sugar to administer your insulin. You go on insulin when you feel you can't breathe and you can't stand. That's when you need it. That's the only time you need it. Do not go on blood sugar.
Okay.
Blood sugar will always lie. It's lying because the pharmaceutical industry has geared that test because they know that a diabetic's going to have up and down all the time, very high levels at times.
Okay.
And then they talk you into, by doing that, shooting up with insulin every day when you don't need it.
Yeah,
every day.
I was using between 105 and 125 units a day.
That's a lot.
And since John's got me on veggie juicing, and so I basically do that and meat. So I'm doing a lot of raw liver now. And,
there you go.
It's dropped my insulin usage down to about 20 units, 18, 20 units.
Great. You'll be able to cut it out, and let's say you do this diet and you gain the weight, get the fat on, and keep up the diet.
I need to start working. I need to start trying to push the workout.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that it doesn't turn
push your
fat.
food, push your work.
Okay.
It's not on this diet. It's not going to turn to fat that way.
Oh, okay.
It won't do the same.
Oh, it won't. Okay. So that's not really so much of a concern.
No, you just do a medium workout, and you're going to build quickly.
Okay.
You have to push hard.
Okay.
The honey in the lube formula isn't going to hurt him?
Pardon?
The honey in the lube formula won't hurt him?
No. Remember in the book I said, I suggest diabetics have a half a cup of honey a day. Because when the insulin collects, when the bee collects the nectar from the flower, it's high carbohydrate. They produce they swallow it. They produce an insulin-like substance which converts that sugar into enzymes for digesting proteins and fats. Not all sugar anymore unless you pasteurize it or heat the honey. Then you destroy all of that hormone-like substance, and then you've got sugar, pure carbohydrates in it. So if a person is manufacturing their own insulin, they get to use the bee's insulin. It's in the honey. That's how
so half a cup a day I should be taking?
Yeah. Not all at once, just spread it all throughout the day.
Okay. And it has to be raw honey then?
Unheated honey.
Oh, okay.
Cold packed honey.
Okay.
How do you, is there a way to make sure you are getting unheated honey? I mean, how do you test it for being unheated? I mean, buy it from the Whole Foods market.
I have a product list for those that truly make it raw, unheated. Did you get my product list?
Oh yeah, I've got that.
Okay, just look on those brands.
Yeah,
on there.
really raw and YS.
YS,
They have both of those at Whole Foods.
Yeah.
And a lot of places. They're all over the place.
Yeah, those are true. Always get it in a honeycomb.
I don't get
Get honeycomb. Actually, it's still in the comb. You eat the wax with the honey. You absolutely know it.
Oh, okay.
Unheated.
Honey Pacifica, how about that?
Honey Pacifica is good.
Well, it's got to say raw and
if it's the cold pack version.
It's the cold pack. They say cold pack on theirs.
I went to the Hollywood Farmers Market one day. It was a summer day. They had the truck in there and the table in there with all the honey saying unheated. It was a hot day. The honey was out there and the truck didn't have air conditioning. It was close to 100 degrees that day.
Yeah, but that's
the
a natural
heat.
heat. No, that wouldn't hurt it.
Isn't 95 the cutoff temperature?
Yeah, no, I say, no, the honey needs to be down around 92.
Okay,
92
it was more than 92.
Yeah, but inside the honey it didn't get that hot. Honey has a way to keep itself from getting that hot. If it were that hot, you could feel it, but you touch that honey, it won't be that hot. It may be hot outside that way, but the honey won't get that hot. Unless you expose it day and night for several days, then it will get that hot. Or you expose it to very high temperatures for a short time, and it will destroy it. Okay? All right. Behind you.
Joe? Joseph.
Joseph. No question?
No.
Okay. Do you have a question? You. Yes.
Yeah. I just want to know your opinion about alcohol. Maybe.
Okay. There are many kinds of alcohol. There's ethyl alcohol that you massage with. Very dangerous alcohol. It's made from petroleum, gasoline, and it will eat into your skin. And a massage therapist, put that on her hands and was coming at me, and I said, "No, you don't. That is a poison. Would you drink it?" "No, you don't drink this." I said, "Your cells are drinking it, and I don't want that on my skin." So I had to get her, to get some coconut oil to take it off of her hands before she was going to massage me. So, ethyl alcohol is a dangerous alcohol. It's a distilled alcohol that comes from gasoline. When you have an alcohol, let's say like a hard liquor, it's distilled. It's like gasoline or kerosene. It will penetrate a cell. The cell has no choice. It's going to penetrate it. Just like if you put gasoline or kerosene on your arm, it would eat right into your arm the same way. Any kind of distilled alcohol is penetrating, and the cell has no choice. It's going to damage cells. Wine is the only one that they do not pasteurize. Let's say if the crop of grapes got a fungus on it, then they would pasteurize that wine. It would be an inferior wine, a cheap wine. You wouldn't even like the taste of it probably. Only cheap winos drink that. But a wine that is not distilled and not, that's raw, like they make from wine, it's still going to do some damage to your nervous system, your nerve cells, and your neurons in your brain, and your liver. Because your liver, believe it or not, doesn't have much fat. The liver and the heart are almost all protein. You have little fat deposits around the liver, but not very much. Around the heart, you have a pocket of fat on the top of it as a reserve to protect it from anything like alcohol. Your brain, of course, shuts down when you have alcohol, even raw alcohol, because it shuts off your discerning centers because it doesn't want to damage those. You'll lose your controls. So that's why people get uninhibited because it shuts off those control centers. And uninhibited is fine if you're anal retentive, but of course, we're all anal retentive because we're trained to be that way, but we're also overly cautious in the wrong way. So I say, and like I said in my book, 2 ounces, 4 ounces, as long as you've eaten a lot of butter and cheese like the French used to do. French would always have appetizers with little, cakes or crackers or something like that, and then put butter on that or a cheese butter sauce on top of that, and then they would have their wine during the meal. So they had all of this cheese and fat there to bind with that alcohol, so it didn't do nerve damage and didn't damage the pancreas, the liver, and heart and brain. So alcohol is not a good thing. You can eat some without having too much damage if you're eating the butter and cheese before you drink it.
How long before?
So you have to be very careful.
How long before you drink it?
Should be at least 15 minutes. 20
15
minutes.
minutes before you drink, before you eat and drink?
No, before you drink alcohol.
Before you drink alcohol.
If you go in to drink wine. Now, we used to have a raw beer. Most beers in the world are raw, except in this country. They all have to be pasteurized. As of 1987, Coors was the only one, out of Colorado at the time, was the only one that was raw. And then the FDA said in 1986, you've got to stop in 1987, you've got to pasteurize your beer. Coors went downhill after that. And then Miller's bought Coors. There is no raw beer. There's no raw beer allowed in this country.
Why is that?
Because the FDA says it's
because
not
it would
good.
be fermented?
It would be you would have fermentation bacteria in it, live and active, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
But they don't want you to have a good thing.
But the high-class European beers have not been heated?
They have to be heated to be brought into this country.
No, I mean if you go to Europe.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of them. You have to check now because the World Health Organization is really an arm of the American Medical Association and the pharmaceutical industry. So they're talking the countries into beginning to pasteurize this and that and everything. So you have to be careful. You have to find out. Most of your German beers, they say, screw you, we're not going to pasteurize our beers.
What about Heineken?
Pardon?
Heineken.
Heineken? It's pasteurized?
In this country?
In this country, yeah.
But
To be brought into this country, if you get Heineken in Germany, it's raw. Not really raw, but it's...
It's from Holland.
Yeah, Holland. Well, Holland, I don't know how Holland is. I haven't studied Holland for that. Holland was the only one that wouldn't let me take my milk on board. I've got a doctor's letter that I bone cancer, but I have to take, a half gallon of milk on with me and all these other foods. And in Holland, they said, take out all this other food on there, but you can't take the milk. So I had to down a quart and a half of milk.
So you took it on board anyway.
Yeah. I downed it right there in front of it. And then I didn't allow myself to pee, so I keep recycling the nutrients. Because I had to fly from Holland to England. The flight that I was supposed to get from Finland to England was canceled while I got to the airport. So I had to go to France, Air France, take a flight to Holland, and then Holland to UK because I had a workshop to do the next day in Antigua, in the Bahama Islands in the Antilles. So I had to get there by a certain hour. So I was hopping planes all over. Holland wouldn't let me on. So I had no milk in England. So I'm holding my pee. I refused to pee and just recycling my pee inside. And I didn't pee until I got milk in Antigua.
So if you don't pee, you'll recycle it?
You'll recycle your, recycle.
Why drink it? Drink it?
You can drink it, but it doesn't taste that good. It leaves an odd smell in your mouth. So.
Yeah, but why drink it when you can just recycle it?
Yeah, just recycle it right there.
Isn't urine, doesn't it contain a lot of toxins?
No. Just remember, as I've said 1,000 million times, your urinary tract and bowels are not a waste center. Your skin is your waste center. The blood the urine is nothing other than the blood with ammonia and without the red and white blood cells. If you urinated all the time, your red and white blood cells, you'd be anemic and in miserable shape. So the kidney manufactures ammonia. And ammonia reacts to red and white blood cells like two south ends of a magnet. So the red and white blood cells don't move into the kidney because of the ammonia. So everything that's in the urine is what's in your blood, feeding your blood cells, feeding the red and white blood cells. So your blood should be pure, not toxic.
And what about feces? Does that contain
Feces
toxins?
is not supposed to be a toxin either.
So like if you eat cheese, and it absorbs toxins,
then that
Where
will
does
be
it go?
toxic.
where does it go?
It will go out to feces.
Okay.
Yeah, that will, but you're forcing it to be a detoxifier.
Okay.
And I will use that as a detoxifier. But normally, when you have feces, it's only not completely digested food. You look at a cow, a horse, or anybody, they've only digested 67% of their grasses. Insects will get in there, dogs, and they'll eat up the rest, and even humans will eat the feces from cows in certain countries because they don't have enough protein. So when it's gone through the digestive tract of a cow or a horse or a goat or sheep, it's 67% digested. Then all of a sudden you can act as a vegetarian, but you're eating a shit vegetarian diet. Literally, and you can. And people in Georgia, Russia, lived on the poor people who were, basically field workers, ate buffalo shit and thrived on it because it was pre-digested. The cellulose was broken down so that they could start digesting the fats and the proteins from it. So, and when you have a bowel movement, you see dogs eating, human shit, and all these animals will eat insects, all kinds of creatures will eat feces. In the ocean, crustaceans eat feces. That's what they're built to eat. That's what they're intended to eat, and it makes them healthy. But remember, feces is just supposed to be food that's not completely digested. It's not supposed to be toxic. Your toxin is supposed to leak through the skin after they're reduced to a liquid substance by the lymphatic system. But like I said, with all the trans fatty acid, all the plastic fat, everybody's lymph systems are just jammed. So they can't get rid of those toxins to the skin until they get into a hot tub that's 105 to 110 degrees for 90 minutes a day.
So if you sweat a lot, that's good.
Pardon?
If you sweat a lot naturally, that's good.
No. Yes, it's good, but you're not going to get rid of those trans fatty acids. You have to get the body up to 105 to 110 degrees to do that, to melt that stuff out of there. This is like people say, well, a rebounder is good for the lymphatic system. I said, if you took a cold stick of butter and a cold glass and you jump for a half an hour, do you think that butter's going to melt? No, it's not going to melt. So you can bounce on that forever. As long as that is cold and solid, it's not going, you can be out there in 50 degrees, 60 degree weather, and you can bounce for 5 days in a row. And that butter is not going to melt. The trans fatty acid, the plastic oils in your body, will not get into a fluid system to move through those pores until it reaches 105 to 108 degrees.
So the heat actually makes the oils less viscous, and so
yes.
they can
move through the pore.
So the lymph can move them out.
No, not the lymph. The lymph reduces it to a substance to be able to put it through the pore if it's the right temperature. It's up to your body to heat up.
It's gelled up.
Fevers are good. Fevers are wonderful, to relieve stuff. But the hot tub is the best. Now, when I have my hot tub, I would sleep in there. I would just go to sleep in there. I would sleep 4 or 6 hours in my hot tub every night. I made my sleep time in the hot tub.
When you were so sick?
Well, not even just sick. I mean, up until I moved from that Malibu house 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, when the city kicked me out. I sleep in it.
Wow.
I have my milk and my sport formula there and sip on it. I wake up after 40 minutes or 30 minutes, drink some, go right back to sleep. Sometimes even slept a straight 2 hours.
The chlorine and fluoride in the water?
I had well water. But as I said in We Want to Live, I talk about the baths in there under health modalities. I tell you to put vinegar, raw and pasteurized apple cider vinegar, milk, sea salt, and coconut cream if you want in the water to neutralize those poisons 7 minutes before you get into the water.
And then when you're heating the water back up, you drain the tub first, and then you put the hot water.
No, you drain 2 inches.
2 inches, right? Right. No, not completely.
Yeah.
2 inches, and then you add more water, and you keep doing that. Do you add more sea salt and vinegar and?
I found that you didn't have to.
Yeah, it just kind of
Because
spreads or whatever.
the 2 inches that you're adding back and dispersing it as because when you're just putting scalding water in, you're moving the hot water like this. It doesn't. It's already absorbing those toxins, the milk and that's already in there. I mean, you can put a lot. Like when I was in Cincinnati, I got there on Thursday night, and I hadn't had a bath in 2 weeks, and I thought I'd better take a bath, And the water is slippery, so full of fluoride.
Software.
I mean, it's like oil. It's oil based. So I put a whole quart of old milk in the bathtub. For getting in the bathtub for me for that time. That much fluoride is going to take more nutrients. That's a lot of fluoride when it's slippery like that, oily almost, really bad. Okay, who else is back there that has a question? Yes, back there first.
Okay, go ahead.
You first.
Do you have any suggestion for osteoporosis?
Could you speak
Also,
up?
I will repeat it. She asked about osteoporosis. Osteoporosis is a thinning of the bone. You lose minerals, mainly calcium, phosphorus, potassium, and magnesium, the alkalinizing parts of the bone, which constitutes about 2/3 of the bone. So your body starts using that in other areas because you're not eating the proper foods to get enough of those alkalinizing minerals. So your body starts leaching from its own bone. That's osteoporosis. To relieve that, you eat 3 times a day. I've taken people who've been as much as 32% bone loss, women mainly. 32% bone loss, which is considered severe. That's when you start cracking everything. So you have a fall and you'll break your hip bone. What I have them do is have 2 tablespoons of cheese 3 times daily with 1.5 to 2 teaspoons of honey.
Can you repeat that, please?
It's 2 tablespoons of cheese, raw, no salt cheese, with 1.5 to 2 teaspoons of honey. And the honey and the cheese have to go down the throat together. So you can mash them or you can put the honey and cheese in your mouth at the same time. Now, when you eat anything dehydrated, there are no bioactive enzymes. The food will not digest properly without leaching nutrients from some other area of your body. However, honey is mainly enzymes for digestion. So, when you eat the honey with the cheese, you provide yourself with the nutrients to digest the cheese. Because it is so concentrated, it's like taking this much milk and reducing it to this in concentration of minerals. When you eat it with the honey, mainly it's the minerals. It's a mineral supplement. It would be like taking a bottle of rock minerals that you will never digest anyway, because we don't digest rock minerals. But in cheese form, those minerals are already in food form. We just add the bioactive enzymes of honey back to it, and then we have a digestible food which can replace the bone very quickly. Now, the one person I was talking about that came, they had 32% bone loss. She reversed it in 20 months. Would you also add butter to that? You don't have to. You can. If the person is very thin and fat deficient, I would say have butter with it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Yours now?
I have a scar. It grew on my chest when I was about 15 years old. It's grown larger and larger very, very gradually.
Chelating?
Yeah,
Keloiding, I mean.
It's incredibly sensitive. I feel that there's veins in it. I did take Accutane around the time that this showed up.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I've done every kind of cleanse I know how to do. And I've tried a lot of things to take this down because it is very sensitive.
Basically, it's a cancerous tumor.
Yeah.
So you put pineapple, take a little piece of pineapple over there, rub it on only once a day. Next day you put raw apple cider vinegar on it. Next day pineapple, next day apple cider vinegar, and let it eat away at a little at a time. What your body is doing is putting dead cells there that you're not dissolving inside the body. So it's building there, better on the skin than in your lungs or in your lymphatic system or any of the liver or glands or any of those. It's better right there. I've seen it. I've had a lot of people who've had their cancers right here.
Now, what about mixing like apple cider vinegar with clay?
Not a good idea.
Not a good idea.
Because the clay is gonna rip the fats out of it, and the fats need to react with the apple cider vinegar. You're going to damage the tissue.
Okay, so just pineapple, apple cider vinegar, rotated.
Yeah.
Is there a brand of vinegar you recommend?
Solana Gold. Solana Gold, Solana, is the only one that's aged in wood and stored in wood.
It's not
stored in wood. Oh, the Brags you don't want us to use anymore?
I never said Brags. I've been with Solana Gold for 10 years.
So Brags,
Brags ferments theirs in wood, but ages theirs in wood, but stores it in stainless steel.
Oh no, I've been using
Brags
it.
used to do the way Solana Gold is, but they sold Solana Gold their extra wooden barrels.
Using it was doing harm to you?
When Bragg died, his daughter took it over and
I
changed
know, but I've been
the whole
using it for the last so many
Well,
years.
still, it's better than Hanes or any of the others, but Solana Gold is the best.
For what it's worth, they don't store it anymore in oak. They do ferment it, but I talked to Solana Gold because I'm going to start getting in our food buying club, and she says we store it in stainless steel now.
They did when they start doing that.
She didn't announce as to when the date was they changed, but she said we just don't have enough capacity to store it in wood that long because we can't sell it immediately after it's fermented.
Okay, then there's no difference between Bragg and Solana Gold now.
Although, I have to say, when you look at Bragg's vinegar compared to Solana Gold, there's a big difference in the color and the mother on the bottom. I mean, Solana looks so much more concentrated and filled with so much more nutrients.
Well, Bragg claims that they don't filter it, but I've seen them filter it.
I think they do. I really do.
I've been buying it till now.
It seems like it's a weaker vinegar.
Well, it doesn't have much mother in it. It doesn't have much pectin in it.
There's another brand out there too that Erewhon sells. It's another vinegar. It's also said raw and filtered. I forgot to tell you the name.
Is it clear or is it really foggy like Solana Gold?
I have to look at it again, or I could return
it's really foggy. It's better.
Okay.
Yes, Jim.
I just wanted to ask this gentleman over here if you could take pictures every day. Would you mind taking a picture?
I don't mind.
When you start on this thing?
Picture of what?
What do you say, every day or so? I mean, is it going to be noticeably changed?
It takes time.
So what, like
but
once a week?
let's say he takes a picture once every 2 weeks.
Okay. Yeah, I appreciate that. People need to know about this,
Of course.
Yeah, okay.
And if it gets really sore and starts seeping or bleeding, you have to cut out the pineapple.
Okay.
And just put the vinegar on it.
Would it also help to eat those internally as well?
Yeah, definitely. But usually in the skin, it has to be on the surface.
Okay.
And that's assuming that he's on a regular raw diet, all around, right?
Yeah. Okay. Do you have a question?
Yes. I have 3 children, 14 years old, 12, and 9. By the time I realized vaccines and injections are bad for you, my first child, son, had gone pretty much through the full course of all those injections. except the Tdap. When he went to middle school, I already knew.
So he had vaccines all the way up to 15 years old?
No, up to, he's 14 now, up to 12 years old, 11, 12, 11.
So he had almost
actually,
all of them.
10, let's say. I found out about this thing. But
So he didn't have all of them, but close.
not all of them. Tdap, for example, that's required for the middle school. I didn't let him have that. Yeah. But the other two children had less of those vaccinations.
Right.
They still had some, but less. And his older son, physically is really good. Everything looks good and perfect. He's doing very well in the school, really very well. But he's very nervous, in constant need of attention, very insecure. He needs to hear that we love him all the time and that what he's doing is not wrong and do all these things. And he's having trouble making friends.
Is he thin?
He's not thin. He's perfectly different.
What kind of fat is he eating?
I'm sorry?
What kind of fat is he eating?
Well, I try to feed them raw butter as much as I can. Try to feed them at least one glass of milk every morning. He eats a lot of other junk, of course.
How about milkshakes? Can you get him to eat milkshakes?
I do them, as often as I can. But he still goes through a lot of junk at the school. And
well, the only way you can counter that is to get him to eat a lot of cheese to absorb those poisons, and he needs to exercise.
He does exercise. He goes to soccer.
He needs to do more.
3 times a week.
He may have, let's say he has 11 activity rings in his eyes. That means he produces hormones for physical activity for 11 to 12 hours daily. I had one couple bring me their, she was 13 and a half at the time, and I asked the people not to tell me their problem. I want to tell them what I see. So I don't want to be, have my mind working at what they've already told me, because my mind will do that. My mind will work as much information as it can get. And I just want to go off of what I see in the irises. So this couple brought the daughter. I shot her eyes. Then she went to the back in a chair, and the parents sat right next to me, and we went over the irises. And I always read the activity lines last. Now, the most activity lines I'd ever seen before in my professional athletes are 11. This girl had 14. And I said, you cannot put this girl in regular school. She has 14 activity rings. She will never be able to focus or concentrate. They're going to label her as ADHD, ADD, and you're going to have a hell of a problem with her. She needs to exercise 10 to 15 minutes every hour for her mind to be open and clear. And they said, that's why we brought her here. And she said, that's what it is. And I looked back at the poor girl, and I was going to ask for her idea about that, whether she confirms that, and she's going like this.
Wow.
That's how much energy that poor girl has. And I said, you need to put her in a sports school, a dance school or something. You can't put her in a regular school. They'll just medicate her to death, and you'll have a vegetable on your hands. So there are sports schools out there, dance schools, there are all kinds of schools. So they put her in the school for that. And fine now. But they had trouble with her for 6 years in school all that time. And all they needed to be told was this child needs to exercise every hour. I had a friend of mine was a teacher from New Zealand who was a special ed teacher. And she got a job in Beverly Hills at a Catholic high school there, and she wasn't even Catholic. So I thought, something's really wrong there. Catholics don't hire non-Catholics to teach their children unless there's something terribly wrong. So she came home, called me, and she was crying and crying and crying. And I said, what's going on? She said, they gave me all of the worst kids in the world in the whole school, all different grades and ages, all in this one room. And I have to deal with all of them. And she says, I couldn't control them for even 1 minute. I said, it's very easy. Take them for 5 minutes, let them go wild in the room, screaming at and rave. You have to tell the next classrooms that that's going to happen for 5 minutes every class, every hour. 5 minutes, and they have to get through it. Maybe they could do something in their classroom like it. So these kids would make messes and everything. They spent 5 minutes cleaning it up, and then I told her to have them sit down and sing the word "Om" 9 times, and that puts the brain into an alpha state. Those kids were fine every day. She did that every hour, every day during school, and that's all it took. Those kids got top grades. They were better than other kids because now the hormones for physical activity were utilized, and they weren't clouding the mind. And usually when the body is that active, the mind is that active too. So you've got a lot of geniuses there, just unable to function because of those physiological hormones. So it was that easy. They fired her 6 months later because they found out that she was saying the word Om, having the kids sing the word Om, and that was the devil's work. Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
And then the kids went right back within a few months the same way. I don't get it. Superstition or rationale.
As far as the diet is concerned for them, what is...
You need to get as much, milkshakes in them to calm them down as possible. Cheese, exercise, and a little bit of exercise may not be enough for him. He may need a tremendous amount of exercise. I wouldn't know unless I saw his eyes. How much we were dealing with. That was his physical body. How much poison.
Insecurity. It's not feeling secure. They always think that there is something wrong with him.
If the body has hormones, it needs to utilize, and it's not doing it, the whole body becomes uneasy. If he has depression, that's something else. That's low bacteria in the colon. Your question.
Yeah, I was going to go back to bacteria and parasites and molds. Is there any of them that we should fear at all?
Any that are made by the universities, the pharmaceutical industry, and used by the military. The Ebola, the AIDS, the anthrax. Those are biological weapons. AIDS was made in 1961-62 at UCLA, discovered by Dr. Robert Strecker. And it's all documented in a book called Bioattack Alert. And then Leonard Horowitz documented how the Ebola was made and how the manufactured AIDS was put in the smallpox vaccine in Africa, given to 125 million vaccines. 97 million people were poisoned and got the AIDS. About 27 million didn't react to it the same way that 97 million did. Or 98 million. So, yeah, if it's foreign made, if it doesn't come from your food and isn't part of your body, or the earth and dirt, it's not safe. It can be dangerous. And you can only get that if you're injected. Don't let a needle get near you. Right. You never know what's in it. Do you have a question,
Hi,
Allison?
Yes, I do. I've been experiencing some disease cells, and I know why. I've discovered that. Unfortunately, I had a problem. I figured out what that was, but now I'm just needing to heal my brain and to build up my brain and to reduce any kind of inflammation and or cyst or tumor that could be in my brain. So what are the best foods? And
well, dizziness doesn't come from that.
It doesn't?
No, unless you're on drugs. You high?
Because I was working on my computer and this DSL system, this black thing, it was positioned in back of my head. And I've been radiating and heating up the back of my head for 9 months or something like that. It was progressively getting worse. I had to get a new cell phone. My old cell phone was really dying. All the new cell phones are very high EMF. I use this one new cell phone, that Samsung Galaxy 3, and making my hand hurt, and the pain going up my arm, and I'm trying to do a text on it, and I can feel it going in my head. So, not using that phone anymore, but just whatever I can do to heal my brain and to reduce any kind of inflammation if I have something.
Well, the brain mainly uses cream.
Cream, okay.
So you got to have little amounts of cream frequently.
My body likes cream too.
And that'll mean you're going to swell some, but you have to deal with it.
Oh, that's fine. My body likes cream. Really likes cream.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to love the raw ice cream. Used to get it raw some.
I drank 2 cups day before yesterday, 2 cups yesterday.
It's like
literally.
It
honey,
makes you happy.
I would take honey, the honeycomb, and eat. I was just going like this with honeycomb. Then yesterday I did it with blueberries. Blueberries and cream. Choose the blueberries and cream. If I just drink the cream, I'll get heavy. I need some of that. Those enzymes to help digest that much cream. I normally recommend that nobody drink more than half a cup of cream at a time, unless you've got serious help in digesting it.
So like raw egg smoothies with some cream and
it's usually when you want to do that, honey and cream is better for your brain.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, honey and cream. Yeah,
well,
so you
blend it or just...
No. You just put a little bit of honey in your mouth and put the cream in there. Let's say a tablespoon, just maybe an eighth of a teaspoon of honey in there, or a half a teaspoon. A quarter of a teaspoon of honey in your mouth with a tablespoon of honey cream at a time, and just mix it all together and swallow it. Do like a half a cup a day like that.
Okay.
For about 10 days.
Okay.
And you can cut down on it.
Oh, good.
If you really think you have an abscess in your brain because the electromagnetic field got disrupted and damaged your tissue, then you need the detoxification, the bacterial lowering formula, which is like 3 ounces of lime juice, 2 ounces of honey, 2 teaspoons of lemon juice, 3 tablespoons of coconut cream, 3 tablespoons of dairy cream, a teaspoon of vinegar, raw apple cider vinegar.
That's what again?
That's for reducing bacterial, parasitical, fungal detoxification.
Would that have like her dizziness? Would that?
Well, dizziness is most often you've got one ear feeling and not the other. One ear is getting too much water.
I mean, I can even be in my bed and I will get some dizzy stuff.
That's too much water in one ear. So the ear where you hear the ocean or humming or buzzing or ringing, that's the where you need to put the hot water bottle at that ear, so you can perspire, get some of that water out of that ear. But it will keep filling if it's detoxifying, so you may have to do that every other day.
Okay.
If the other ear starts ringing, then you need to put it on that for that night, and then the next night the other ear.
Okay. I need the hot water bottle. It's good too. I love the hot water bottle. It's so amazing. It's a great, excellent tool.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, Roger, do you have a question?
So I perspire very little. Is this a problem, and what should I do about it?
You need to eat more and gain 30, 40 pounds. So you can afford to hold more fluid to perspire. Right now, you don't have much fluid. If you
I
want
drink
to,
a lot during the day.
Well, you drink a lot of what? If you drink water, that's not going to help you.
Well, I drink mineral water.
That's not going to help you.
And ice and tea.
That doesn't help you.
A little coffee now.
Doesn't help you. You need milk.
I do. I drink about almost a quart a day.
Well, drink 2 quarts and stop drinking the other stuff, and drink vegetable juice instead of tea.
Well, I drink a couple of vegetable juice a day.
Okay, then eat. If you're a tall guy, you can drink 3 quarts. I drink 2 quarts of milk a day minimum.
As kefir?
No, not all the time.
Really?
It's always room temperature or warmer. Most often it's on its way to kefir. But I travel so much that I can't keep it in the kefir form. But it's never cold. Well, I never take more than 2 ounces of cold milk at a time. When I take it cold. And that's if I've forgotten to take it out, and I thought I did. And I go out and have my, like 2 ounces of milk, and I drink that over about 2 minutes. Maybe 2 ounces a minute. So I have 4 ounces at a time, and then I leave the milk out. What I usually do is I'll put it in a bowl of hot water to warm it quickly, so I don't have to wait so long, because I like to sip milk all day long.
Excuse me, is it for everything that should be done room temperature? Or
Everything but vegetable juice. I take my meat out the night before that I'm going to eat in the morning, the meat that I'm going to use during the day, and the next morning, actually, what I do is I take my meat on Sunday. I get the big, cuts, the roasts, only not roasted, and I'll cut those into inch slices this way, flip it, cut into inch slices this way, and then inch slices this way, so I have inch cubes. Then I put those into my food processor, so it's no more than this much high, about an inch above the top blade. And then I'll grind that for about 40 seconds, so I pate my meat. And then that'll make 2 cups. So I take these 2-cup jars, stuff them almost to the top, and I do 1 a day, and then 1 extra for the week. So I make 8 a week. So I do all of my meat on a Sunday.
Wow.
For the whole week, so I don't have to deal with that. I have time for other things. And I make all of my foods in the morning for the whole day. In my little bag down there, I have every food that I'm going to take till I go to sleep at night. And then the next morning, I will make all the foods for the day. I don't have to do anything with the meats because that's already made. If I have to do juicing, then of course that day I have to spend, an hour juicing. So that's a little extra time. But if you want to stay on the diet and do it well, you prepare all of your foods in the day in the morning. While you're making, you're doing your cheese, you're doing your cheese, your eggs, your meat or juice, and then meat. During that whole span, you can have everything prepared.
The fruit.
If I do the meat on Sunday, I can prepare all of my foods for the whole day in 35 minutes.
Whole week, you mean?
No, each day I still prepare those for the day.
Okay.
But the meats I do once a week.
And did you add honey to that meat before you pateed it? Oh.
Why don't you get your meat ground?
Yeah.
Why you have to chug
Would that
it?
be simpler?
If you have your body makes hydrochloric acid to dissolve larger particles of food to put it into a soup. Then the bacteria infiltrates that, and then the bacteria's waste is our nutrients.
No, I mean if you have ground.
Listen to me.
Oh.
So if you have ground meat, your body still has to make a lot of hydrochloric acid to dissolve that into a soup.
I know you.
If it's pateed, it's already, by the time you finish mixing it in saliva in your mouth, it's the soup. Your body doesn't even have to manufacture hydrochloric acid anywhere in the stomach or intestines. I sleep 1 to 1.5 hours less when I pate my foods. When I eat ground meat, I have to still sleep 45 minutes to an hour more. If I take meat and cut it like I eat meat here, I will sleep an extra 2 hours tonight, hour and a half to 2 hours tonight.
Wow.
Because my body has to make a lot of hydrochloric acid to dissolve that into soup for the bacteria to eat. So if you want to maximize your time and energy, don't do something you don't have to do.
No, I'm saying
Pate your meat.
if you have ground meat, I still pate it.
Okay, you can do that. That's fine. Yeah.
That's right. So why you buy this?
But it can only be ground roast. I buy the ground roast, the chuck and those other cuts because it's sweeter to me. When I have it ground at a store, they use a high compression.
Maryland sells the ground beef.
Yeah, and they use a high pressure grinder to make it. To me, it homogenizes some of the fat molecules, so it absorbs some of the blood in it, and it takes the sweetness away. So when I cut them up like that and put it and pate it all at the same time, that blood and the fat are all dispersed evenly, so it tastes a little bit better. And I'll make sauces, like I'll make a sauce, one of my favorite sauces. The only problem that I have is that it raises my libido, so I don't have a girlfriend here. So it's a little annoying, because I'll get a little horny while I'm sitting there trying to work. But what it is you take about, 2 large tomatoes and put them in a slice them and put them in a quart jar, and you take one of those whole packages or 2 of dill. And you don't use the stems, you use mainly the stalks on it. You take the stems and the fronds on it, the tentacles, and you put that in there with I use about a thin slice of onion, about like this and about this big around, about 1/8 of an inch thick, maybe 3/32 of an inch thick, and then I put 2 cloves of garlic in.
2 cloves?
Cloves.
Wow.
Well, not the whole.
Right, but still.
Little cloves. 2 cloves. Well, you're talking about a quart of fluid here.
Just one off.
A quart of fluid.
Oh, a quart.
So then I'll put 1.5 tablespoons of vinegar in with that and 2 tablespoons of honey. It is absolutely delicious. And it will last months in and around the refrigerator. I've been traveling with mine. I've got a little bit left. I've got about this much left that I've been eating for a month. And I put just a little of that on if I put a lot, then I'll be really horny. So I just put a little bit on, enough to really flavor and make the pate taste very, very nice. But I always pack my butter, with all of that. So I eat a lot of butter, like 3 tablespoons of butter to 4 tablespoons per meat meal.
Is that in the recipe book?
No.
Okay.
It may be in there, but I don't think so. That's something I came up with in the Philippines the last time.
You blend that in a blender.
Yeah, I blend it in a blender.
Hey, Aajonus, you said don't eat double ground beef, but if you pate it, is it okay to buy double ground beef or not?
When you put the double ground beef through the high compressor, it homogenizes all the fat. It's not under high pressure in the food processor.
No, but earlier you said to Kathy, single ground, you can use that and pate it.
Yeah.
My question is,
but it's still
not as good.
It still doesn't taste as good to me.
Okay, but even if you're pateing, you still don't want double ground. You only want single ground.
Because then you homogenize all the fat.
Is that beef that Maryland sells, the ground beef, is that twicely ground?
I don't know. I don't buy it, so I don't know. You have to ask her.
So
and she'll have to ask.
When you pate your meat, it never goes through such a high-powered sort of.
No, there's no pressure. It's
so
just
it's
grinding.
totally. So you could pate it to like a sauce. It would be okay. Not quite. I mean.
Well, you're going to stop if you start blend the sauce in it. It's going to arrest because all those things are alkaline. Even though they're using tomato in it. It's got a high alkalinity, so the bacteria is not going to grow in the meat.
So, what should I
just
do?
The meat by itself.
You won't partially digest it. It won't digest as well.
But just the meat by itself, you can do whatever.
You do that by itself, and then add when you're ready to eat it. Then you add your sauce and butter at that time.
Well, what do you do if I bought already 2 pounds of ground beef from her?
Use it and don't the next.
I have to eat it then.
Yeah, I would eat it. I wouldn't
give
waste
it to the poor.
So you can do that same thing with chicken and fish. And
absolutely, you can do it with any meat.
And no sauce is better for digestion within it, like storing it or whatever.
Yes, you don't want to store your meat in sauce unless it's just for an hour or 2 to marinate it and flavor it.
I don't know. Did you say butter goes in that sauce?
No. Well, yes, I did. And you can even put cheese in it.
Butter.
The cheese makes me even more horny if I put that in there. The minerals start helping my body build too many hormones. Remember, hormones are for emergency purposes. But I don't exercise because I have no activity rings. Well, this is my exercise. Remember Cary Grant? This was his exercise. That and sex. That's all he would do for exercise. Anyway, you can put cheese in it. You can put butter in it. Do not put olive oil in it. Do not put an oil. Or coconut oil. Put butter in it.
But if it was white meat, like chicken or turkey or something like that, would that be different that you could put olive oil in it?
You don't really want. Olive oil is a heavy detoxifier.
I've been putting olive oil in my pâté chicken for probably 6 or 7 years.
Yeah, well, you'll be constantly detoxifying. And that's okay if you like that. You're not going to rebuild, not heal very much. Olive oil doesn't provide for healing.
So, what would you mean? Just plain butter would replace that?
Pardon?
Like
Put butter in your sauce.
Okay.
Instead of olive oil. Okay. Kathy, do you have a question?
Oh yeah, that toe of mine is inflamed and swollen, the left one near the end. And I've been putting the hot water bottle on at night, but daytime I'm having trouble walking. You know, It's like needles and pins in your foot.
Okay. At
Like
night before you go to sleep.
What?
At night before you go to sleep, soak it in lime juice.
Soak it
Squeeze enough lime juice where you've got a little bowl. Stick your foot in there.
Cold water?
Lime juice.
Oh, just put it in a bowl.
In a bowl with lime juice in it. Yeah. It can be cold. It's okay. It doesn't matter.
It's filtered water. Do I have to use Sterile water? What kind of water?
You're not using any water. You're using straight lime juice.
Straight lime juice.
Yeah, straight lime juice in a bowl. So you may have to, juice a whole cup and a half. You can reuse it. You can use it for 2 months.
Wow.
So you just put your foot in it every night for 20 minutes. Put the hot water bottle on it for the rest of the night. Then it will resolve that. Okay?
I have to make it with a cup and a half.
Make a cup and a half of lime juice. Get a 12-ounce jelly jar. So when you finish soaking your foot, you can put it in the jar and put it back in the refrigerator. Next night you take that out, put it in the bowl again, soak your foot for 20 minutes. Or that toe, that area. It'll be cold, but that's fine. You can warm it if you like. You can put it in a bowl of hot water and warm it. It will work faster if you do that, and you may only need to soak it for 10 minutes.
Wait a minute. I heat the water on the stove?
No, just use the hottest tap water you can.
But then
in a bowl.
Water is fluoride and all this.
No, you're not putting that in the lime juice. You're taking the jar that's closed with the lime juice in it, right? You're immersing that in a bowl of hot water. So the water's not getting into the lime juice.
Yeah.
Okay? Okay? That's fine. You're doing okay.
No, just putting that time and putting for
Kathy?
A cup and a half.
Kathy, remember when I met you? You couldn't even talk. You're talking very well. You just want to be so ahead because you've been so behind all the time. You worry about keeping up. If you just stop and listen, instead of your mind racing ahead trying to second guess me, you'll absorb it and it'll be easy for you. You're making it difficult for yourself. Now that your brain is working, don't push it. It's a good brain. You can sing, you can talk, you can get people to do things. Think about that. You can get lots of people to help you. That's a phenomenal talent. So you've got a good brain, you just need to trust and stop pushing it. Okay? Jim, do you have a question?
I got a lot of questions, but one of them is I think I've read up on your remedies for like waking up at night and not being able to get back to sleep. There's nut cake, there's milk and honey, there's the raspberry jam. What else?
Okay. What is your problem?
I don't know.
You go to sleep and you wake up how many hours later?
2 hours. Okay. 2 hours, and then I'm awake. It varies, but...
Stop eating the olive oil.
Yeah.
You're detoxing at night too much.
Okay.
start eating the butter, start eating more cream, you're going to get fatter again, which is good. But, you're going to be able to sleep better. As long as you keep eating olive oil with your meat, you're going to be in constant detox, and that meat's not going to feed your brain. And anytime you can't sleep, it's a protein deficiency, unless you're on some kind of cocaine or drug. It's keeping you from sleeping.
Going back one thing, can I just say, what is that main thing that is hurting my toe? What is that? The back?
Bursa.
What is that?
Bursa. It's a little sac that makes fluid to lubricate all the toes. You've got one on each side of the foot.
But why now? It's detoxing?
Yeah. Anytime you have a problem, it's detoxing. Anytime you have a problem anywhere in the body, you've got industrial toxins in that area that need to be removed. So your body will put extra blood circulation and lymph circulation into it to feed it and cleanse it. That causes a swelling, which causes pain. If your body can use white blood cells to eat that dead tissue, white blood cells in the bloodstream eat dead red blood cell tissue.
So the lime is like in your juice or in your foot, it does just antibacterial. That's why
lime juice will reduce the need for having white blood cells there. So you're thinking ahead of me again. So I wanted to take other people. They're not as smart as you, okay? So when we have white blood cells, they eat dead red blood cells. They keep the blood clean. Their waste is nutrients. It can be reused in the body. It doesn't even have to dump into the intestines. Anything that a white blood cell, as long as it's organic and pure and natural, the waste can be recycled in the blood. Okay? When your body doesn't have the proper bacteria or parasites or fungus in a particular area, you will get pus. Pus is white blood cells leaving the bloodstream, going into an area to eat up dead cells, dead tissue. That's all it is. So that's why your dogs and cats, anytime you're pussing, they'll come over and lick your white blood cells. They know it's good stuff because there's very little toxins in it, but you're losing all these white blood cells. And remember, you reproduce your white blood cells, red white blood cells in the bone marrow. It's a slow process. Plus they have to mature in the bone marrow, and when they're mature, they enter the bloodstream. So it isn't like they divide and then all of a sudden go into the bloodstream. They have to mature, so there's only so many red and white blood cells that can manifest, that can breed in the bone marrow at a time and mature and get into the system. So there's a limit. So whenever you're losing white blood cells in pus, it's a huge waste. Lime juice coats any toxin, so your body it doesn't damage surrounding cells, so your body has to call in white blood cells to eat them. So what will happen is, when the body throws off that toxin to the skin, it'll be a little dry area where you just scratch it off. So instead of having pussy in the big area of the skin which is red and inflamed and pusses, you have a little dryness in that area, and you'll just pick off the toxin as it comes out to dry skin. Easy way to do it. Okay?
So, if mainly it's a protein deficiency, how come the raspberries and honey works?
Because they have a tendency to raise sugar levels or pull out glycogen out of the body.
But there wouldn't be, you couldn't do the blueberries and honey or some other berries. I mean, it has to be raspberries.
No, it can be any berry.
Really?
Any berry. But that's just a quick fix. It's not going to remedy your problem. The problem is you're having olive oil with your meat all the time.
Well, with chicken, yeah. Okay. Okay.
Maybe you do that 2 days a week? Okay.
Well, I all my meat, see, I have at least 50%, sometimes way more, beef or bison. And then the chicken, which has been,
marinated olive oil.
Well, first with lemon, then the lemon poured off, and then a fairly small amount of olive oil and onions or something like that. but I could put butter in there and try butter and honey in the
cream.
The food processor.
Food processor.
Yeah, that would be better because remember the brain uses more white meats than red. Eyes use more red meat, the ears use more red meat, but the brain itself uses more white meat.
So if I wanted to be smart like I was as a kid, I could eat a lot of white meat.
Yeah, but with, not with olive oil.
Yeah.
Once in a while, maybe 2 meat meals a week out of 14.
Okay.
You're welcome. Yes.
Hi.
Hi.
Well, the question I have is what I really want to ask. Excuse me, I'm going to get upset here.
It's okay. Be upset. It's a relief. Crying is the best thing you can do. It actually transforms toxic hormones, like old toxic adrenaline and hormones that are made poorly out of old toxic stuff from years ago. It actually transforms them into endorphins, which relax and heal the body.
Great, fucking burn.
So cry all you want to. I can come back to you in a second.
That's right. Okay, so in 2010, I had a hemorrhagic stroke for reasons the doctors can't explain to me. Okay, fine. All right, so for the last...
Let's resolve that one right now. Hydrogenated vegetable oil.
Okay. Okay, the other thing was, so for a year and a half after that, I had great recovery. I've been on the raw diet for like a year, and during that year, I ate a lot of fish. And I guess, it helps or something. Anyway.
Yeah, but now the fish is contaminated.
So I stopped eating the fish, right around June or July or whatever. And since then, I have lost all my recovery.
Recovery, yeah. Well, you just have to go for some fish that's not from the Pacific Ocean because of the Fukushima radiation. You need to get it from Nova Scotia or the,
Where do you get that
New
from?
England. The Santa Monica Seafood Market.
Nova Scotia?
And New England.
You said you gave up all seafood.
All seafood from the Pacific and South Atlantic.
They don't have any oysters from Nova Scotia?
Yeah. You ask them which ones, and they'll tell you which ones.
Is something like fermented cod liver oil going to help at all?
No, that will not. You need to heal yourself. You've already had the damage. You've scar tissue.
Well, I don't know. What am I trying to say here? I healed a lot, and I recreated a lot of new neurons and blah blah blah, and then I lost the ones that I created.
No, you just have a block. You still have you probably still have the trans fatty acids blocking your brain because they collect. They have a tendency to, like sand, and collect. Oh, she isn't here this week, this time. Rosanna, she passed a bunch of little crystals from her urinary tract, and she hit them with a hammer, and they wouldn't even break. They wouldn't even dent. That's plastic oil. When it is solidified in the body and collect. I had one of those pop out my nose one time. I mean, I took a sledgehammer, wouldn't even dent it. Would not even dent it. Scary. So, that's what's blocking your brain. The only thing to get rid of that is the sport formula and hot baths and hot water bottles on your brain, on your head. Hot water bottles on your head.
You have with a wrap it with a towel.
When you go to bed.
Yeah, you wrap it with a towel. You told me.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it comes down to here, and then it cuts here. I feel I can't move. I mean, it hurts me.
Put it a little higher.
Oh.
Can I ask you something about those hot baths? I've heard you recommend those hot baths a couple times. Would that be the same as like saunas or sweat lodges or?
Saunas are a minimum of 132 degrees. Those are the infrared.
And to do that.
And your skin starts being damaged at 110 degrees. Destroy the vitamins and enzymes in your skin. Imagine what it does to your sinuses and your bronchioles and your lungs.
Bath, do you have...
There's 2 places in his book where you
Okay, so it's in your book.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the look under health modalities under VAS. It talks about it there. But the best thing is to get a hot tub because there's a straight temperature. You know, so there's no up and down with it, and that really works much faster.
You can't get that unless you have it. You have to have it someplace to build it.
Yes, you do. If you have an apartment, not possible.
No.
So in terms of what Jan just said, she had some recovery, and then she stopped eating fish, and she said, okay, and she lost some of her apparent recovery. And why would she lose the recovery?
Getting blocked, the same centers that she damaged before blocked. Not that she's lost the recovery, it's blocked again.
The recovery is blocked.
Yeah, the transmission of synapse and axons and ganglions are blocked again by the plastic fats.
Okay.
So even though she's recovered,
I haven't been eating any plastic fats. I've been eating the raw diet. So
they're in your body and they're going to be transformed and transported and moved all the time.
And does fish help unblock the plastic fat?
No, it does not. It helps build neurons and nerves, but it does not help clean it. Vinegar will, pineapple will.
Those will help unblock.
Those help unblock and heat.
Oh, okay. Vinegar and
heat, hot bath.
Vinegar, pineapple, and heat.
Hot water bottles.
Tomatoes are also help clear the brain. Do you have a question?
Yes. On that thought, tomatoes help clear the brain. It's about, let's see, I have a lot of heavy metals in my brain, and over the past years, I've lost a lot of memory ability for memory and concentration. And while I like it a lot for my artistic sense, because my cognitive brain isn't interfering with my creativity, I kind of enjoy that. However, I need my cognitive centers in my ability to concentrate and memory. So what I've been doing the formula with the berries and the coconut cream and whey and milk and honey and etc. that you recommended last time. I've been doing that, alternating it with the cheese. Can you comment further?
Well, the cheese, you just need to, if you want to remove that. She was a laboratory technician and got tons of mercury and formaldehyde. Scientist.
Thank you. Big difference.
Scientist, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I degraded her. Demotion.
That's right.
And she got a lot of mercury and formaldehyde in her system, inhaling it into her skin, everything. So she's full of metals. She could be the female Terminator. So that takes a while to get rid of those. It takes 50 to 200 fat molecules to get rid of one molecule of mercury safely. So it's going to be a long haul. But if that part of your brain is stuck, it's not really dead because I didn't see a lot of death in the brain. Okay. Yours is clogged too with the trans fatty acids. Okay. You just have to clear that the same way. Cognitive factors, that's the right side. So you put it on the right side of the brain.
All right, so vinegar, pineapple, heat, tomatoes, the hot baths, and the metal detox formula that you recommended.
Right, and cheese.
And cheese. Yeah. Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Is the metal formula, is that the vaccine formula?
No, it's berries and coconut cream and dairy cream.
No.
And vinegar, if you add vinegar to it, it even works faster. But it's just a problem with the vinegar and the berries and coconut cream and all that. It tastes so good, people start chugging it. And then sometimes you get stomach aches because they drink it too fast. So that's why I don't tell a lot of people vinegar. So if you have control, add vinegar. If you don't have control, don't add the vinegar. Okay?
Cream, should I...
And only half a teaspoon of vinegar.
Should I, you mentioned last question, cream for the brain. Should I be eating more cream? I'm only having, should I emphasize the cream in my diet?
if you want to rebuild it, if it's clogged, you've got to unclog it.
Mm.
I think your brain is good.
Okay.
You know, I don't think you're having a problem there. You have the blocks. Synapse and ganglion. I mean, your ganglions and axons are getting full of this plastic, these plastic balls or crystals. And then your synapse can't fire. So, what about on the right side? If you want, you can put one here and one up here. And then put a towel over it so you can breathe. You know, leave your nose and mouth out unless you got a snorkel. Does anybody hear the last potluck? We had John and Jill from Nevada City. You know how they take their get in their hot tub?
Snorkel.
Let's put a snorkel. Can you imagine all these years I never thought of that? I can have my whole head under my bathtub, my hot tub all those years and have the snorkel.
But it's a rubber mouthpiece, right?
Well, you can, as long as they're cured, that's okay. Rubber's okay.
Silicone.
If it's plastic, you know, in the heat, it can be a problem, but rubber's okay.
Wow. That's cool.
Yeah, it is.
Wow.
I never thought about that. How much faster I could have detoxed this.
Space.
Yeah. Well, everything's under, and they got the snorkel.
Wow.
You would do that in a bathtub?
Yeah.
How long do they
Where do
stay
you
on?
get the rubber
Sporting goods store.
snorkel?
The snorkel, yeah.
And how long do they stay the entire session under the...
I didn't ask that.
Yeah, I wonder how long they can be.
The conversations are very interesting.
Well, in my hot tub, I had it was a Greek tub, big tub, 10 feet in diameter, and then I had a area to sit on here, and then the open pit in here. So I would have my feet on the seat over that side and my head on this side, and my body wouldn't be touching anything in between. And I would sleep that way, but my head was always this much underwater. But just think with the snorkel, it could get all underwater. I just filled the hot tub a little bit more. It would have been great, you know. Do you have a question?
Yeah, if you eat something that's not organic, if you eat lots of fat with it, lots of butter or cream, will that absorb?
Some of it.
Not all of it.
No, not all of it. Now, there were some laboratory tests that came in about 2-3 months ago that showed that organic food had 5 times more pesticides and garbage on it than non-organic food. That means that people are like the Bushes, like who bought, and their own Whole Foods through Trust, the Bass and the Bush family of Texas. They are propagandizing. They are poisoning you purposely. They're going out and finding the worst foods, saying they're organic, to destroy those people who have intelligent minds. Remember, when Bush was involved in Nicaragua, El Salvador, and in Cambodia, what did they do? They went around and killed all the professors. Anybody who had intelligence, who could think. They got rid of the thinking class. Now you go to Cambodia, you got a bunch of cowboys who don't have wisdom. There's not many old people there who knew anything. And it's a really weird country. You've got kids with no sense of wisdom running a country. And all they do is they'll do the bidding of anything the American government wants, the CIA, they'll do anything that they want, which means in corporate hands. So they're dumbing you down. You people who know about organic, they're dumbing you down. So I don't trust any organic food from Whole Foods. Only thing that I will ever buy from Whole Foods is Gerolsteiner or Apollinaris water or their all grass-fed beef. Because when I taste it, it is all grass-fed. You can't have anything that tastes like venison except for all grass-fed beef.
Their cucumbers are okay because it's not waxed. I bought the cucumber there.
Like I said, I don't trust anything from them. I would go to Erewhon first. I would go to Santa Monica Co-op. I would go to Rainbow Acres. I stay away from Whole Foods.
What about sprouts?
Pardon?
Sprouts.
Sprouts?
Yeah.
They're usually grown in whatever city water is used. They're not grown in good water. So you got fluoride, if they're grown in LA, they're using 192 chemicals in our water.
No, he means
you go here.
Sprouts.
Pardon?
He means the store sprouts.
The store chain.
He's saying
there's a chain of stores similar to Whole Foods called Sprouts.
Well, those are okay. They're not, when they get bought up by Whole Foods, then they won't be any good.
But they're not owned by Whole Foods.
I know, so they're okay.
So none of their produce in Whole Foods, I shouldn't go for.
I don't trust anything from Whole Foods. I won't shop at a Whole Foods except for that beef and that water.
Or
and that water's for my hair and face.
Are you okay with the New Zealand lamb if it's in the original package?
Well, I called them the New Zealand lamb, and it's okay.
Good.
What are the Icelandic lambs?
Pardon?
Iceland?
They actually have lamb from Iceland in all places.
Really? Well, I haven't called about that, so like I would check everything, Nick. I would check absolutely everything.
You said it absorbs.
And then their whole natural beef, they feed it 25% donuts, bakery waste. When they first came out, when I talked with Lubbock, where their offices were in Texas, I got to the man who handles. They don't grow all that. They contract with ranchers, just like I contract with farmers to get our milk. So Whole Foods contracts with ranchers to provide certain kinds of meats grown and provided for in the way that they want it done. And to cut costs, they buy this very inexpensive bakery waste, which are donuts. And they were feeding it at that time when they first opened 15% bakery waste. Now it's 25% bakery waste. And I said, wait a minute, cows don't eat donuts. They don't fry them in trans fatty acids and eat them. Oh, but they eat the grains.
Oh, gosh.
Should I throw away the cucumbers that I bought by them? Or
that's up to you. That's up to you.
How about Trader Joe's?
Pardon?
They have some organic. Trader Joe's?
Trader Joe's, that's a tough one too. That's a very tough one. They cut a lot of corners to get cheap foods. And they lie. I caught them lying quite a few times. So you can't really tell whether they're true or not.
So basically we don't know what to eat.
Well, that's why I say you've got to know your farmer. We've got to make contracts with more farmers. That's why I put all these farmers together. That's why I'm spending thousands and thousands of dollars fighting the government for farmers.
Farmers, in farmers markets, is it you were talking about?
No.
Are there any Amish?
Those guys are garbage.
Any Amish in California? Amish farms?
No. Too expensive. Land is too expensive here. They go broke. There are a lot in Kansas. Kansas is the next place I'm going to recruit.
Good.
For bringing our produce in, are you talking about?
Everything. Like I said, we don't eat much produce, so I don't worry about it.
For celery or lettuce, cilantro.
Well, like I say, go to these other ones. You go to Erewhon.
Erewhon, yeah.
I know the people. I've known the people at Erewhon for 32 years.
There's new owners there now.
Yeah, but they sold it. But Teddy's still there, and Alan's still there.
Oh, okay.
And I've known them for 32 years.
Yeah, you said the fat will absorb some. Now, some, do you mean quarter, half, three-quarter?
Depends on how much concentrated the poisons are. Like if you got 5 times the pesticides normal in your commercial that are in commercial, in your organic, you can eat probably 5 tablespoons of butter with a half a pint of berries and not clear it all. If you have cheese with it, you're likely to clear it all.
Oh, really? Oh.
Cheese and butter, or cheese and cream.
So that'd be good, like for an emergency. You know what I mean? You couldn't. Let's say you couldn't get grass-fed. All you could, you had to shop at Ralph's. So you could have cheese and butter with that meat.
Yeah, but you have to understand that those toxins have caused mutant genes in that meat. So not the best thing in the world. Like you say, you need to cut meat up and store it. Lewis has started, to make a storage of meats. What you do is cut them up. I dry them for 30 minutes on each side. That's 4 sides, in the sun, 30 minutes on each side, just to seal the blood in. And then I coat it with olive oil, and then stick it in a quart jar, a half-gallon jar, with maybe a cup and a half olive oil. And I stuff the meat down in there tightly, and then of course the olive oil will go up to a certain point, and then I'm going to stuff more meat in. I'll put more olive oil, so I've got about this much olive oil covering the top of the meat, and then still this much airspace, about 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch, because it's going to outgas a little bit. And when you see the top bending, bowing, you let that gas out and put it back on. And it usually won't. You only have to do that 2 times. I kept meat that way for 10 years. And I had 10 of them that I made, and each year I took out, it was for the, Y2K. And I knew why I was a programmer, so I knew that Y2K was just a money scam. Crashing computers. No, it will just make a lot of your figures bad, as it changes dates, but it's not going to destroy anything, not going to create a bank catastrophe or anything. So these programmers made billions of dollars, including, that guy who ran for president from Texas, Perot. Yeah, he made billions off of that. Because he had programming systems, we'll save you, so he charges 10 times more than normal because we've got a disaster coming. So they made a bunch. Anyway, I made these jars and took out 1 a year to see how it tasted, and it was wonderful.
You stored them where?
Pardon?
You stored them where?
I stored them in a low cupboard, not refrigeration.
What kind of refrigeration? What temperature roughly?
The room, I didn't use heat, and I was in Malibu Mountains, near the top. So at the warmest it probably got was 98 degrees in the daytime, and the coldest it got was probably 30 degrees, 35, 36.
It was just red meat or all kinds of meat?
It was just red meat. It was all venison. It was a deer.
I find that when I pate the meat and I really stuff it in those ball jars and with no air in it, it just stays but I am putting it in the refrigerator, it's staying pink.
Yeah.
It's like, is that something similar to what you're describing?
No, that's an entirely different way of keeping it, but you still have to keep it refrigerated.
Okay.
I do keep mine like that. When I pate it, I keep it refrigerated. But when you're storing a lot for emergency purposes, you're not going to have a refrigerator when the electricity goes out. So you have to need something that's going to store meats without refrigeration.
Could you pate it and then just cover that with a thin layer of olive oil?
No, I don't. No. When I'm putting it in the refrigerator, making my pate for the week.
No. I'm just saying, as an alternative to the way you said, I'm saying, could you also pate it?
I don't know. You can
try
it. Okay. See, I haven't tried it.
What do you coat it with? Would you have one of those brushes?
Yeah, a basting brush.
Oh, what is it made out of? Not nylon?
Well, they have some that are made out of boar's bristle. I don't know if you can still get them. I have one that's made out of that. You can't get boar bristles, then get, you can get those vegetable scrubs, and just brush it on with that.
How long will you let it sit out in the sun?
Is that like a
30 minutes on each side, so you got 4 sides. That's 2 hours. We have to flip them.
Yeah.
Every 30 minutes.
It's not. There's a brush that you're talking about, it's a white bristle. It's not what you wipe your meat with. It's like a vegetable brush you're talking about.
He's talking about.
Well, I was giving two alternatives. I was talking about the vegetable brush or the brush. You can also go to a paint store, an artist's paint store, and find a natural bristle, larger brush. Very expensive, may cost you $30, $50, but then you know it's natural, and you keep that for and olive oil won't break it down. I have brushes that are 36 years old that are fine paintbrushes when I used to paint, and they're still good, and I always clean mine with
Do you know
olive
where an
oil.
artist shop is around?
There's Michael's in Santa Monica.
Okay.
Do you have questions?
Yeah, I've been experiencing more than normal for me, like diarrhea, nausea, bloating, really hard lack of appetite. Like for me, that's not like the normal.
Intestinal detox. Cheese. Absorb all that stuff. Remember, when you have gas and you have swelling like that, that means your poisons are mixing with your digestive juices. Cheese will absorb those.
With honey?
So they don't mix.
Without honey?
No. Remember, when you're detoxing, cheese is not to be digested. It's to absorb the poisons and move out. So if you're using no salt raw cheese, you won't digest it. There are no enzymes in it. But the body will use it to absorb those toxins and move out the bowels. If you eat honey with it, that's to digest the cheese. You don't want to digest your poisons, redigest your poisons. So when I tell you to have cheese for detoxification, it's without fruit or honey.
With that volume of cheese that you've been talking about for a couple hours here, I've tried eating cheese with butter and it doesn't seem to do anything. Cheese just creates constipation.
Jim, you are one of the most fat deficient persons I've ever met. It's going to take you another 10 years to catch up on getting the fat, the butter in your system, the fat that you need.
So just more butter.
More butter you need in your diet.
Okay.
And you may need honey and butter together to digest it all. It depends on how well your liver's working, producing enough bile. The bile is produced by the liver. That's the only thing the liver is supposed to do. Bile fractionate fat globules, spreads them out so the bacteria can infiltrate it. Without the bile, fat molecules cluster to balls.
Now, you mentioned, and as far as cheese, you mentioned to me 30 minutes after a meat meal, you eat a couple tablespoons of cheese with some honey. That seems to be an exception to...
No, let's go over this again. After you have the meat meal, 25 minutes after that, you have a little piece of cheese, maybe 1 or 2 cubes, to absorb the poisons. 10 minutes after that, you have the cheese and honey. Just remember, I always say 10 minutes before you eat anything, you eat a piece of cheese. So you're not getting the poisons into your food. It will be absorbed into that cheese first. And that includes the cheese with the honey. You have the cheese 10 minutes before that, plain cheese or cheese with butter, 10 minutes before you have the honey and cheese. Okay? Question, Michael.
I've had a rash, and as you know, on my legs for a long time. It seems to be getting a little bit worse. I use egg white, butter, and bone marrow. The egg white is treated like a burn, and butter and bone marrow it's for the itching. But it lets me sleep at night. But it's been 2 years now.
You just have to remember that you've got toxins coming out that skin constantly, either from your joints or from the bone itself, discharging in that place. Now, I will experiment with my advanced cancer patients when they come to me. So I had this woman when they had the same thing like that, but around her breast. And it was half gone. Now I saw it yesterday, and it was starting to grow back at the actual breast. First time I've seen a breast starting to grow back, but it was already collapsing from the body breaking down the cancers in there and dissolving it. So her whole breast, and I told her that I'm used to people losing a breast, naturally. So they don't lose all their lymphatic glands around, that will keep them from having lung cancer. But her breasts actually started growing back. But what started it was, I told her to start packing it with cheese. Taking a little cheese and milk and mashing it. Getting into a paste and put the cheese over. Stopped all the bleeding, stopped all that deterioration, and started a healing effect. So that doesn't mean that she's not going to have trouble later, because she still has to get rid of the dead cells that make up the tumor. She still has some hardened tumor over here. All the tumor up here is all gone. It's just soft and breast again. Now there's just a little bit down here. So she stopped it from secreting. Now it may go inside her or grow down this way. You know, the cancer movement. And I warned her that that might happen. But she just panicked. So that was a quick fix, so she wouldn't run to the doctor and, you know, have her whole breast cut off and all of her lymph glands and all of that. She's been on a diet about 6 years. And that breast and the tumor should have been absolutely gargantuous according to the medical profession. But each year it's been getting softer and smaller. So she's been ahead. But when it started leaking and bleeding a lot, and that's a sign that the cancer cells are actually dying. They contain like a solvent product that dissolves the dead cells. You only have one cancer cell around 50 to 200 dead cells. It's isolated. But you do have blood and lymph and neurological circulation in a malignant tumor, not in a benign tumor. No circulation in a benign tumor. It's a dead substance. You're not going to eliminate it easily. But when you have all those circulations into it, you can dissolve a tumor. You can restore the body to a working, functional, living system again. When you have a benign tumor, it's not living. The whole area is completely dead. So when that cancer cells begins dying and setting out that solvent to dissolve those dead cells, the serum's got to go somewhere. You don't want it to go inside. You want it to come out to the skin. And it's going to damage skin. It's going to buckle it. It's going to, cause it to be sore and other things. But you will discharge it that way. But I was very pleased with the process. But I let her know that was a quick fix. If it seeps again, enjoy the seep. That's the cancer cells dissolving all those dead cells that make up 90% of the tumor.
People would just leave it alone,
Hold on.
doesn't it?
Good. He raised his hand first. Go ahead.
I used to have lower back pain intermittently on the left side, and it was from strain in the back, and it would go away. Or I'd have it adjusted and I'd be fine. About 2 months ago, I got it in the right side, lower back, and almost immediately started to get numbness going down the back of my leg.
Sciatica.
Yeah.
Hot water bottle.
Okay, hot water bottle to this area. Now, the back irritation is gone, but I've gotten severe nerve pain when I stand up and so forth right now.
Then you've got a block. You got trans fatty acids or mineral blocking that system.
Okay, so the hot water
vinegar and pineapple and hot
outside?
heat.
Or
Well, does it feel deep or surface?
No, more deep.
Then it's got to be internal.
Okay.
You eat it.
Okay.
Let's keep on the subject that we were talking about.
Michael's thing. How do you know that Michael doesn't have shingles?
Well, shingles is always toxins leaving through the skin, drying out the skin.
Couldn't that be what's happening with him?
Yeah, that's what I said.
Oh, I see. Well, let me tell you, on shingles, I had like a patch, almost a square patch, itching, and I went in the book and I looked and I found shingles, and I had a banana and honey, just like you said, and poof, the thing went away. Just amazing.
You mean you ate a banana or you rubbed it?
I ate banana. I mean, just loaded honey. It was like, a great day. Banana and honey.
What a great cure.
Yeah.
I'll take that prescription any day.
Yeah, but what that did was that created like a mucosal coating on the cells to protect them as the toxins came through. And sometimes the reason I don't like people to do it too often because it'll send the poison somewhere else. So you'll find you get shingles somewhere else or dry skin somewhere else.
Well, I did have one other one, and so I had another banana and more honey, and that one went away, and that was it.
Yeah, so now it's not detoxic.
I can have a banana honey, proactively now, I think.
There's a bag right down there next to you. Can you hand that to me? So
I was always thinking
that one.
that's my bad.
That one.
I was just always asking you something that with the cancer that if people just leave it alone, won't it just go away and it won't bother you? It's the medical tradition that's been affecting the cancer rate.
According to Harbin B. Jones, 76% of the cancer that he observed went away on its own.
See?
But the other 23% didn't.
That was years ago, probably.
That was in the 50s.
Yeah, so
60s.
now.
Straight from the cow, unrefrigerated.
Where did you get it? When you were in Cincinnati?
No, I've got a guy that I turned on in his retirement. He became a farmer. That's not retirement. So I got it right from him, this cow, in Ohio.
Wow.
There's a lot of fat in that one. See it?
Yeah.
Creamy.
Yeah,
he has Jersey cows?
All Jersey.
I have my question.
A question here. She hasn't had a question?
We two have.
Oh, these two haven't.
Oh,
yeah.
no. Teeth. I had the tooth pulled here because it was cracked and I didn't want a root canal. That's just been proved to go. Still, I get a tiny bit of pink saliva in the morning. Is that not okay?
Well, you probably have a little bit of bone chip in there.
Teeth.
Oh, she said she had a tooth pulled because it cracked, and she didn't want a root canal in it to put a crown on it.
It had
So
abscess.
she just abscess is just the nerve cleaning out around the tooth, not the tooth itself. So anyway, and she said she keeps having in the morning a little bit of pink seepage, which means she has some little splinter of bone of tooth still in there. It'll work as I had the same thing last year. I had a tooth that came loose back here, and I had a root canal done on it probably 1978. And of course, many dentists want to pull any tooth that's got a root canal. Root canals are not bad. It's the poisons that go in, especially the injections that they give, xylocaine and Novocaine. They create a tremendous amount of tongue and jaw cancer, facial cancer, eye cancer, brain cancer. So they'll hook you into this crap, believing that root canals are not good. When a root canal is done, there's no nerve in it. So your body's not going to be dumping any toxins into that tooth. So the whole idea that you're going to have a toxic tooth because you have a root canal is absurd. You may get an abscess around it, but that's the nerve from the brain going down to the tooth base, still cleaning. Only it's not cleaning through the tooth anymore. It's cleaning out the gum and around the gum. So you get abscesses. So anyway, I got an abscess because this tooth was ready to be removed. It was in my way because I was constantly chewing, just getting gnarled in there. It hurt. So I just took some dental floss and wrapped it around and yanked it out. That took care of it.
Yourself.
But I had a bone fragment that passed out in the next 6 months. And I could feel it poking and poking. And my body just worked its way out to the point where I just took a tweezers and popped it out. And it was a good, probably 36ths of an inch long. And about a 36ths of an inch thick.
You put a bone graft in. That's not good.
No, it isn't good. You got to trust your body to rebuild your own bone. Like my bone, when I pulled out that tooth, it had, because I just kept it in there, I wasn't going to pull it until I had to. The bone was gone way down. Now the bone's grown all the way back up again.
So So should I have him remove it or leave it?
Your body may be the chip that it's trying to throw out.
Okay. Got it. So is there anything I should have him do, or just leave it?
Let it go, because he'll just shoot you with more Novocaine.
Yeah.
Not good.
Then I have a tooth here that they say is dead. It's numb. It has a leakage up here from the temple above it. It's got a...
Okay, that's not the tooth, that's the nerve leaking.
He says it's eating away my bone, and my sinus is a mess.
It will eat away the bone because it needs calcium, but you can grow it back.
So just leave this tooth?
Leave it, absolutely.
Okay.
I've got 4 dead teeth in my mouth, and I'm not removing them until my body says they're coming out.
So should we try this at home?
Yeah, certainly.
I get calls in the middle of the night.
Must have a door you slam to or something, right?
I didn't trust that door. You never know what angle. This I could just pull like this, and I knew it was going up and out.
I found needle nose plier useful, at least for small teeth.
Just watch old episodes of the Three Stooges. Okay? Three Stooges have great videos doing this. Okay? plenty of documents on this.
Yeah, I remember that.
You can ask me a question about this too, just to know. So, this is a veneer. I really wanted to stay. He's a biological dentist. He says there's a root canal that almost never gets infected because it's made with something called MTA, and he really cleans it. And this is what he wants to do, to take that infection out, because he says, and I can feel it way up here. It's like my whole head is sometimes...
But that's your nerve detoxing. It's not the tooth.
The infection that goes in my sinus?
Yeah, that's from the brain, because you got mercury or something in that nerve going down to the tooth.
Right.
The nerve's detoxing. You're not backing up the tooth this way. If a tooth detoxes, it's going to come out the gum.
It's been this way for a few years. So just keep the tooth and not worry about. There's a lot of stuff that goes on in here. My ear down here.
But that's all your nerves and cleaning out from toxicity in the brain.
So just keep the tooth. I could have kept this one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Novocaine. Silly girl.
Novocaine is terrible stuff.
Oh, I'll ask a second question, but...
Well,
they have to.
These two have to, and then we were going to be finished.
Oh, okay.
You have to call me on any other questions. Go ahead.
I have been eating for 4 years this kind of food, but I want to...
How many years?
4 years.
4 years you've been doing this?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I feel great.
Good.
But I ride my bike for almost 5 years, almost every day. I ride bike. I don't use too much the car to work. And I go everywhere, Pasadena, Alabama, any place. But I want to gain weight. But they say, oh, because you use too much bicycle.
No, like I told him, you have to eat 2 pounds of meat a day, 1 pound at a time, with the lubrication formula, a whole lubrication formula that's on page 146 of the recipe book.
Okay.
You make 2 of those a day. You have to eat 1 of those with each meat meal, and you will gain the weight. Everybody has. All my skinny little people like you become big and strong like him.
You say 1 pound?
Depends on the height of
1 pound twice daily. So it's 2 pounds a day.
2 pounds a day. Okay.
Yeah, and take you. It depends on how much you work out, how quickly you will build the muscle. But I've seen it happen in 5 months. Like I said, Larry Lucky put 4 inches on his arms and 6 in his chest in 5 months.
Wow.
And do you eat it with the meat or after? You wait a little
Well,
time?
you eat, let's say, a third of it with the meat and then the rest 10 minutes after. You eat a third of the lubrication formula with the meat and then 2/3 of it about 10 minutes after you finish the meat meal.
Can I ask you another question very short? My friend, he called me last night. He got it paralyzed, his face.
Shock? I mean a stroke?
The eyes like that and the mouth like that.
Stroke.
Why do you recommend for that?
Well, I say in the book, but also, she can eat vinegar. It's very helpful to clean the system out, because if you have a stroke, you either have a bleeding of the brain, so the brain doesn't get nutrients and it fills up and swells in the brain. That usually causes death. So if she isn't dead, then what she had was a block in her brain. And depending on what the block was it mineral buildup or was it trans fatty acids? Either way, vinegar will help remove that.
And water, bottled water too?
Pardon? Hot water bottle, absolutely. Always hot water bottle on an injury and pain.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've been doing the diet for about 7 years, and the raw meat, I'm apparently not doing it right. I know now I should pate it. I'm going to do that. But I've always added honey to it. Sounds like really that's not necessary. You don't recommend adding honey to the meat?
Well, it just adds enzymes for breaking it down, or if you pate it, you don't need the honey with it, and it's better because honey has a tendency to inhibit certain bacteria.
Okay. And then, could I get that sauce one more time that you gave that's so good? Because I'm getting so tired of the meat. I'd love to.
Well, I have 82 sauces in the recipe.
The one that you said is so good. Could you give it to us one more time? It may not be in the
like 3 cups of tomato. Oh, and I put egg in it. I'm sorry. It's 2.5 cups of tomato. I put 2 to 3 eggs, depending on the size of eggs. So all those who wrote it down before, add eggs to that. 2 cloves of garlic, 1 slice of onion that's about 1/8 or 3/32 of an inch thick. 1 those packages of dill, at least 1.
Small
You can
little
add
box.
more. Yeah.
Little plastic box.
Yeah. And not the stalks, but the stems and the tentacles. And 1.5 tablespoons of vinegar. You can have up to 2. Like anybody who's had a stroke or anything like that, probably 2 would be better. Or any kind of clots or blockages in blood flow or whatever, varicose veins, spider veins. Put about 2 tablespoons of butter, heaping tablespoons of butter, so it'd be 3 tablespoons of butter. And cheese if you like.
You said honey too before.
Yeah, 2 tablespoons of it.
And that's put in the quart jar and then blended with the Oster blender.
Yep. And I blend that for a full 50 seconds to a minute.
And that'll last
60
a
seconds.
week?
I've had it last months.
Without refrigeration?
No, both with and without. I made a big batch. I took off to Philippines and left some in the refrigerator, took some with me, ate it without refrigeration. When I went to this last 10-day trip to Chicago and Cincinnati, I didn't refrigerate it at all. I left it out the whole time.
But you said the eggs go bad in 24 hours. Even
not in this. It's such a little part. You got the vinegar and honey to stop them from advancing.
Wow.
But you eat the meat and then you dip it into the sauce? Is that what you do?
No, I pate my meat and then spread that on the top.
Oh, you just spread it on the top.
And I pat my butter on the side, and I take a little butter with a big chunk of meat.
Well, how much butter?
I said 2 to 3 tablespoons of butter.
Per pound. I'm sorry, I meant to ask the cheese price.
2 tablespoons of honey.
Yes.
Whatever cheese you want.
How much cheese?
Whatever. It's optional. If you use, what, inch cube, 2 inch cube, it depends on what consistency you like, and if you want a really strong, tart sauce, then don't put so much cheese in it.
And if you don't fill it all the way to the top, then I've left something out, right? Or I'm not adding enough of something because it should fill all the way to the top.
No, it doesn't have to.
No, it doesn't.
It depends upon the size of the tomatoes and stuff. Depends upon the size of the eggs. Mine was probably about 4 ounces, 3 or 4 ounces below the quart level.
So you don't worry about oxygenation with that?
No, because I use it the hard way and, sits there in the refrigerator.
Yeah, you're blending it in too.
For months.
Okay.
Well, it seems to last great.
I'm married, so I don't have to worry about that.
What time is it, folks?
Oh, it's time. All right, it's 5:35.
long as it doesn't freeze.
Freeze.
You don't freeze the yogurt?
No.
Okay.
Well, because it's touching the yogurt tub.
Doesn't matter. Unless it's frozen, it won't leach.
Okay.
Or at a high heat.
Aajonus, I think the answer to my question was put cheese on it. It's a fungus infection, at least according to my doctor.
And cheese fungus eats cheese. So you draw the fungus out by giving it something else to eat besides you.
Cigarette smoke?
Well,
From
Well, I got a dose of it today this afternoon, and I'm still feeling nauseous still.
well, tomato and vinegar. Juice.
And our neighbors smoking all the time. It's always going into apartments.
Tomato and tomato.